And we're live.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 204 of Fans of Power. I'm Joe Amato. I'm here with Nathan Kennedy and half of James Eatock because we ain't got video feed. That's what fucking delayed us. Is right here's James. We have audio. How's it going, James?
Yeah, pretty good in my evil dimension. Apparently, there might be a ghost accompanying me, like a noise of "ooh." That's me going "ooh." But yeah, apparently, I'm coming through in a very bizarre fashion. My laptop, literally prior to this, the camera was kind of working, but then just prior to recording, I was like, "Oh, let me set it up." It started working for a few minutes, and now, according to my computer settings, I don't have a camera on my laptop anymore. So goodness knows what that's about. But I'm sure the people on the dark web are able to watch me right now as I pick my nose or something like that.
You can do whatever you want. And that's when the camera would decide to start working. Exactly. You got to figure your nose like, what just happened?
Well, even if his camera does come back up, it's not going to show up on the end on the stream here. So everyone will be treated to this lovely image of James Eatock and Skeletor just kind of having a good time.
Oh, right.
Do you want to hear the most bizarre thing? Right now, my laptop is frozen up. So I was getting ready to say, hey, let's say hello to the chat room. And I had my video up for when we do the commentary for Into the Abyss. And my computer is just locked up. What
We're falling apart, man.
Are you serious? I can't do nothing. I'm going to have to do a hard reset. I can at least still look here and talk, but I can't do nothing. What are the odds of that?
Go figure, Joe.
What the
You've put a curse on the entire show. You broke Eatock shit, and now you're breaking your own shit.
How is this even possible? It's my virus and my bad technology has spread the internet into James's computer. He gets nothing, no video. Are you fucking kidding? Nathan, you're going to have to start at least doing something while I do this because I got a hard reboot.
Well, I'll go ahead and do the motto gimmick.
We'll just
What's that,
chew
James?
the shit. We'll just chew the fat kind of thing while Joe goes away.
Well, Joe, you're not gonna go anywhere, right? It's just the laptop aspect of it. Okay.
No, I'm not going to go anywhere unless this decides to shit on me too. But everything here, me watching and having the video ready and having all those stupid ads from the, because we're going to do Into the Abyss. So, of course, when you play it on YouTube and you don't have YouTube Red, it wants to pop up an ad, then show a commercial and an ad. So I watched the whole thing, got them all off. I got to do the whole fucking thing towards the end.
Good.
Oh, well, I'll go ahead and
Sorry about that.
Everyone who's joined us in the chat room. So let's say hello to Zentron, Michael Purvis, Zen Brown, Grim2, Papa Hud 69, Joe Amato's in there as well. Febmon, Descendants of Grayskull, Spike, Adam Gabbard, scrolling. Hopefully, I'm not missing anybody here. Aaron Voorhees, and I think that Eric Amons joined us as well, and Jason Johnson. So I think we got everyone. So yeah, I guess James, while he's figuring all of that out, we can just sort of jump into the topics that you guys were wanting to discuss here.
Yeah, we could still discuss those. Yeah, exactly.
I don't know how much James wants to talk about certain things, or if at all, but I guess we can start with Revelations and your thoughts and opinions on that, and just some of the things that have been announced as of late.
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm terrible for these kind of things. When something's announced, I rarely, the new She-Ra cartoon is up to season 4, and I've seen only the first season, which is like over a year ago now. So, yeah, so I still want to see seasons 2 to 4 at some point, but it's one of those where it's like, did you show?
No, you don't. No, you don't, James. Please, you do not want to. No, well, go ahead. Keep on.
So I thought, at some point I'll see them, but the thing at the moment is that but my point is, I just, even when, things are announced or teasers are shown, I just don't get to see them unless Doosan kind of says, look what they've done. And I'm like, oh, man. And I get annoyed with him, not in a horrible way. It's just like, oh, stop showing me stuff that's making me even less likely to watch the show. Like the one he did, right. I was like, don't show me that. But at the same time, it was the one with where Catra was mocking Tongue-Lasher's name. And the thing I couldn't understand was, forgive me for, mocking anybody's names, but these characters were mocking Tongue-Lasher, like Tongue-Lasher. And it's like, wait a minute, you do realise that Catra's name is literally She-Ra with a cat instead of a she. That's the whole point of it. It's Catra, She-Ra. How can you suddenly think that Catra is the high end of creativity in terms of names. That's no disrespect to anybody at Mattel. They were creating toys with funny names, Mechaneck.
Right. Gimmicks that match their look or their abilities. Exactly.
That's the thing. Yeah, exactly. It was like, oh, great. And those names transcended where we don't have an issue with it. Yeah, we know Tongue Lasher's a silly name, but it works with that character. And it's not like, oh, my God, Tongue Lasher, don't even go there, girlfriend. It's like, no, that's just a name that works with that character. The same with like Too Bad and Buzz Off. Those names kind of fondly loved with those characters, like associated. So I was like, when Doosan showed me that clip, I was like, oh man, that just makes me want to see this show less. And then I went to PowerCon, and there was a lot of people at not a lot, but you know, for every person that said they disliked the show, there was a person that said, oh, I love the show. And people, like some of my closest friends who I've known online for close to 20 years now, were saying you should seriously check it out. Like, it's not the She-Ra we grew up with, obviously, but they were saying there are strengths to the series, and I saw that in season 1. I was like, oh my God, yeah, of course there's strengths to the storytelling. But my attitude was, it doesn't have to be She-Ra. It could be another. It could be like, what was that Wonder Woman toy line they were going to do? Wonder Woman and the Star Riders or something. It literally could be that show where it's a bunch of characters, you know, who are like the She-Ra cast but aren't the She-Ra cast. So exactly. I'm just sort of like, and every kind of teaser I accidentally stumble across or begrudgingly see, I'm just like, So up until I think a few weeks ago, I assumed that Revelation, is it Revelation or Revelations?
Revelation.
Okay, so Revolution. I had just assumed it was like, for some reason, I don't know why, I thought it was like, oh, it's like a 13 episode thing, but it's 26, right?
I believe it's, I'm trying to think, I know they said it was, I couldn't remember how many seasons it was broken down into, but it was enough to where you think maybe you get 13 here, 13 here. I couldn't remember if it was 26. Hell, I couldn't even remember. I thought it was scene 52. That's why I had everything set up right here in front of me. I even had the Revelation screen and talking about how many episodes was going to be in it, but it didn't say per season. So it's like everything just went to shit right when my computer went out. But no, I'm curious to see the thing with the cartoon, because knowing that they said, you know, you're saying a bold statement when it's picking up where the Filmation left off. Now, okay, yes, I understand story-wise. Obviously, it's not going to look like that. We know it's going to be a different look. But we're at least knowing and should be guaranteed these should be adult characters and not children. So I guess with that being said, like, what are some of the hopes that you get from this cartoon? Like, let's say, story-wise, things you'd like to see, things you wouldn't like to see, the animation, maybe the sound. What are, you know, things you're really hoping that they can focus on that can make this into a great cartoon series that wants you to keep tuning in all the time to see?
Like, before I get to that, I'll kind of, not to like bore people, but I'll talk about.
No, Boris, go ahead. As long as they ain't Hero in the Land of Legend or whatever that shit was, you know, you're good with anything.
Going back there anymore. Trust me, we're not journeying back to the Land of Legend, I think, ever again.
No,
but no. So Revelations was so funny. So what was it? A week before PowerCon? It must have been a week. I think I might have even been in America at the time, because I'd gone to New York before I went to LA. And I'm sure it was like maybe a week and a half before PowerCon when Kevin Smith was announced as being there. And I've been following Kevin Smith, you know, ever since Clerks and that, big fan of his films and stuff. And over the last, I'd say 3 or 4 years, I've been watching his Fat Man on Batman, like it was a podcast, then it became like a video podcast, like Fat Man Beyond, they kind of call it, but it's still Fat Man on Batman. And they do this live recording from the like this kind of faux Star Wars cantina on Hollywood Boulevard. So I've been watching it there, watching it online. It's always like a fascinating show, and I'm always like, wow. And it's always been funny to me, and it's just like, oh, I'd love to go and see that recording one day. And for the longest time, those like Mark Bernard and Kevin Smith have been going like, oh, we need some of that Netflix money. And you know, during this time, Kevin Smith, since I've been watching this, he had never seen like any of these DC shows like The Flash and Arrow and all, Supergirl. And then he started watching them. Mark Bernard was like, you should check these shows out. And he did. And I'm like, oh, finally, Kevin Smith. And Kevin Smith would talk about it and do like, I'm not a big fan of reaction videos, but watching him see like, I think it was like the season 1 ending to one of the Flash episodes when you see a glimpse of Supergirl or something. And he's like in tears and it's like, oh, this is brilliant. And I'm like, yes, man, yes. And I think actually tonight there's the start of the Crisis of Infinite Earths crossover. So I'm like, oh, I want to see that at some point. So they're doing the DC TV shows. So, yeah, big fan of his work. And for the longest time, you know, like he'd got onto the DC shows. It's like, oh, great, now he's directing episodes. I don't know if he wrote any, but he was definitely directing some of the DC TV shows. And then they kept him and Mark Bernard would joke about, yeah, we need some of that Netflix money. And Mark Bernard had just done I don't know if it was a show called, I think it was Castle Rock or Eagle Rock. I forget what it was called. Anyway, and it was like based on a Stephen King thing, and it was like, okay, cool. And then I think it's about 3 or 4 months ago, well, actually longer now, let's say probably about April or May, maybe, they both started talking about, we've got something in the pipeline, it's going to be great. And I'm thinking, oh, wow, it's going to be like a Clerks TV series or something to do with Disney Life. It's going to be like a Marvel show. I was like, because, you've got a massive two comic book nerds in Kevin Smith and Mark Bernard. And I thought, oh, that's where they're going. And then, PowerCon is about to happen, and a week before, whatever it was, that Kevin Smith gets announced. And I remember thinking, there's no way Kevin Smith is coming to PowerCon. And it was like, he was going to interview. I forgot that. Oh, I feel really bad. I forgot the name of Mark. He's the guy who runs Mattel, the head of Mattel, Mark something. Oh God, that's really bad that I forget his name.
That's all right. That's all right.
Really, really lovely guy. Actually met him in person at PowerCon. He was very sweet. But he was, and they were going to be interviewing him because he'd written some of the DC comics, I guess, like a few years back. I profess to not having read many of those DC things, so I'm not going to be like, oh yeah, I know him very well. It's just not my cup of tea. As I always tell people, like my He-Man and She-Ra happened in the '80s, which is probably not a great thing, but that's always been my my go-to. So yeah, I was thinking like, so Kevin Smith's going to come to PowerCon and ask someone questions. Like, don't get me wrong, guy's an amazing moderator, but also he's one of the best talkers on the planet. You put Kevin Smith on a stage, that's why people pay him, and that he gets paid to talk for 2 hours because his anecdotes are always utterly fascinating. He's worked, his anecdote from all those years ago about working on the Superman Lives film was fantastic, and the Prince one of my favorite stories is when he was trying to do a project with Prince, and it's just like him in Prince's house, like he's on Prince's toilet, and there's like a sign saying this room's wired for sound. It's like, oh my god, if Prince is on the shitter, he can actually write a song.
it's 3 a.m.
like that.
He wants a camel, and he lives in Minnesota.
That's the one. That's the story. So he's great at Kevin Smith is great at telling those stories. And I'm thinking, and it wasn't until, it sounds really dense of me, it wasn't until the morning of the convention I was talking to Danielle Galerta, Penny Dreadful.
Yeah.
And it might have been the Friday night actually of the convention. So, prior to the Saturday of the convention, we were talking about Kevin Smith. And I said, if Val happens to see this, I think I've even said it to her. I said, I felt that Val was kind of caught off guard because I remember I messaged Val as soon as Kevin Smith was announced. I was like, Val, I'm there. I'll be in the green room. Is there any chance you can, hook me up with a meeting with Kevin Smith just to say, oh, lovely to meet you, man. And Val was like, oh, sorry, man, I won't be able to do that because I'm kind of, not caught off guard by it, but I'm not even sure I'll get to meet him. And I was thinking the organizer of PowerCon won't get to meet the guy who's going to Kevin Smith. That makes no sense. That might have just been Val playing, being careful, which is fair enough because the moment he says, yeah, of course, James, you can meet him, then everybody else has to meet him. You know what I mean? It's like,
sure.
This chump wants to meet him, then everybody wants to meet him. So, so I remember I was talking to Danielle and we were talking and I said something about, all this way. And I was just like, I can't remember if I just turned to her and I was like, is he going to be announced as doing a new He-Man show? And she kind of looked at me as she didn't know the answer either, but we both kind of just that knowing look of that's what it is. And it was like I say, it was the morning of the PowerCon or the Friday night before, and I was just like, oh my god. And then so I had best to get into this. Sorry, it's transition. So yeah. So anyway, on the Sunday, Kevin Smith turns up. It was so funny. There was just this. There was a whole chat. I mean, PowerCon was great over the weekend. It was it was the biggest ever, I think, in terms of attendance. There was no real quiet moments. Usually at these conventions, you get a good, maybe in the afternoon for a few hours, it just kind of quietens down until the last minute, and to the point where you're just kind of sitting there going, man, business is bad or whatever.
Sure.
So that wasn't the case on this occasion. It was just constant flow of people. There was maybe an hour here where it just went a bit quiet, but there were still customers and stuff. But on the Sunday, like I said, the whole atmosphere, not in a bad way, the atmosphere changed. And suddenly it was like, Kevin Smith's here, isn't he? Because you just suddenly saw people going in certain directions.
Right. And
it was because he was in the green room. And I was like, wait a second, I've got a table. you know, and I don't know. It's not. See, this is where I ballsed up when I was talking to Val. I assumed everybody who had a table had access to the green room. It's like, no, it's if you're a guest. So if Val sees this, you can see I was error all the time because I kept going to the green room. Not kept. I did it once or twice for a couple sat opposite us at a table. And I would go in the green room, get them cookies because I assumed, oh, you're too busy to go in there. And it turned out, oh no, they actually didn't have access to the green room. So I was like, sorry. So anyway, I go in the green room. There's Kevin Smith, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, there's Kevin Smith, like about 10 feet away from me." But he's surrounded by people. There's like 3 people around him, as well as Mark Bernard. And I'm like, "Oh man, Mark Bernard, and like what an awesome guy." So anyway, Kevin Smith then goes. I think he goes to the Mattel booth. So when I'm at the table at PowerCon, I rarely get a chance to go up and down the aisles. But I thought, wow, I'll have a walk. So I was walking up and down the aisles, and there's Kevin Smith. Obviously, everybody knows. Mark Bernardin is less known, but I was walking past. It was there's a guy on Facebook called Motu Joe, and I saw, and Mark Bernardin was stood right by his. He was like looking at stuff by Motu Joe's kind of table, or not a table. It was a table with undersells. He had a huge display, a really beautiful display. I was like, I should do better displays. So. Mark Bernardin's in. I just kind of turned. I was like, "Oh, Mark Bernardin." He's like, "Hey, it's me." And he was like such a sweet guy. And we talked for about 5 minutes. And I was like going, "Oh my God." I said, "I've been listening to your podcast for years. Big fan of your stuff." Again, I'm not thinking at this moment in time, "Oh, you're going to be announced as a He-Man writer." You know, I'm thinking Kevin Smith must be involved. But I'd know my brain just wasn't processing the information. So I was just talking to him as like a fan of his, work on the podcast and other stuff he's done. I was just like a big fan. He was a really sweet guy. I was like, "Can I get a photo?" He was like, "Yeah, of course, man." So we took a photo together. And I was like, "Oh man, that made my day." Then I think Kevin Smith went and did his panel. Kevin Smith went to moderate a panel, and we were in the panel room was right next to like the convention center, or if not, it was like maybe a little room away. So you could always hear people in the panel room, like if there was a cheer or laughter.
Okay.
And for about the first 20 minutes of the panel, it was just like, talking kind of thing. And then at one point, there was just this huge cheer. And I turned to my table mate, Lee Clevenger. And I just said to Lee, he's just been announced working on a He-Man cartoon. He's like, "You reckon?" I was like, "I guarantee it." He's like,
yeah, with that kind of response, yeah.
Oh yeah, we were like, so I said, "Do you want to go and have a look?" He's like, "Shall we?" He's like, "What about the table?" I was like, "Yeah, fuck it." So we literally just got up, walked away from the table. People are like, we're terrible. Like this year,
stealing shit off your table and everything. You just
my God, that's San Diego Comic-Con. That was the last time I went to that jerk joint. I was like, I had my Serial Geek table, and the first thing I ever did was put a magazine on the table, turned around to get another magazine, and the other one had been stolen. I was like, it was awful. So me and Lee just went in there, and it was like it was random there, and there was Kevin Smith, and I was like, there was a big poster with the Revelation image, and I was like, yeah, and I was listening to him talk, and then he invited the 3 people that were hanging around him. I thought were like, just mates or minders, turned out to be 3 of the writers as well as Mark Bernard. And I was like, oh wow, and the guy from Mattel was up there, and I was like, wow, this is... And I remember at first, I was being I'm not going to say I was cynical, but me and Lee were kind of hanging back going, look, man. And we were listening to them talk about it. And they were saying, like, it's going to pick off where the cartoon left from. I don't know if they used... I don't know if any of the press material, and correct me if I'm wrong, if it has said where the original cartoon left.
I thought something did. One of the things I read specifically, I don't know if it was like just a banner piece, but there was something specifically that said that, it's going to pick up where the 80s or where the original left off. There was something pretty much said like that. So, yeah, you're not wrong with that, I think.
Well, my theory is if I think they're going to pick up on... I think people, unfortunately, some people in the wrong are like, they're going to just pick up where the Filmation cartoon left. I'm like, no, absolutely not. But you will... I think why they're saying that, I think it's really good, because what they mean is you're going to get your Royal Palace, you're going to get Castle Grayskull, you're going to get... And I think those visions of what Eternia looked like are going to still be the same. So the key thing... Like like I say, what I love about Kevin Smith is that everybody knows him as he says as himself. He's always been known as the guy who writes dick and fart jokes and gets paid to do it. But if you've ever seen like his work on Supergirl or The Flash and stuff like that, or even like in the comic industry, he always adapts really well. So he'd obviously watched a bunch of shows, and when he was on the panel, I was stood next to Lee. I wasn't being cynical. I was just like, okay, almost like, come on, prove to me, I want to hear what you're going to say. And one of the things he said, and I was just like, oh my God, he's got it. Because obviously he's the showrunner, so he's going to be in charge of like the series Bible and stuff. And the one thing he said was I'm sure this is on YouTube or something, but he goes, the original show was about family. And I was like, oh my God, he's got it. That's exactly what it is. It's, to the Savage fans, those wonderful first 4 mini comics in which He-Man builds a house, though that world was about warriors. There's nothing wrong with that. It was heroic warriors versus evil warriors. It's like He-Man's lost his magical vest and Skeletor's conquered Castle Grayskull, and that was that. And then Filmation comes along, built on the back of the DC mini comics, which I still think are some of the best stories ever. That's what I'd love to see brought to life. Those mini comics were incredible. Like, add the Filmation touches, like your Prince Adams and your Orcos, but bring that Procrustes and that the Magic Stealer and the PowerPoint Dread. Those visuals and that strength of that storytelling, I thought was fantastic. And yeah, so when he was talking about family, I was like, he's watched the Filmation and he understands that the family is, King, Queen, Adam, Teela, Man-at-Arms, Orko, Cringer. That's your key group of characters. And even Skeletor is his own family when you think about it. Is Skeletor, Evil Lyn, Beastman, Birdman, Triclops, Trapjaw. I'm obviously going through the Diamond Ray crew, but it's those groups where, yes, they're heroic warriors and evil warriors, but at the core, especially with the heroic, like the royal family, is that you do first and foremost. The old cartoon, the Filmation cartoon, was a toy advert, and it's like, yeah, that's great. How many times did Roboto or Cyclone show up? How many times did Man-at-Arms, Orko, Teela, Adam? They showed up a lot. King and Queen showed up in bloody every episode. That's a lie, but they showed up a lot. They didn't even have figures at the time. You know what I mean?
So no, I've said that before too. I remember that was one thing that drove me nuts. It's like I never felt like it was a toy commercial, because almost every character that was in that cartoon you've never seen in toy form until, well, here comes classics. But back then, you're right, like majority characters never popped.
King Randall the Sorceress turned up as toys 2 years after the cartoon had finished. So it's not like they would jump piggybacking off the back of that. It was Mattel going, shit, let's try and do some extra sales with this Climate Champ guy. And don't get me wrong, I love those last few figures they started to produce. But but like when Kevin Smith said that, I was like, he actually gets the show. He's not trying to, he's not going like, let's make it dirty, or not that he's going to make a dirty show, but I mean, his vision is he's taking it from what he believes the original was. And when he said that, I was like, shit, he gets it. He understands what this show is. And he said, like, we're going to have action in it. Of course they are. My theory is, and what I'd like to see is, basically, the best way of putting it, the best way I can put it is, I'd like to see the 2002 cartoon in terms of story arcs and storytelling, but with more heart. Because nothing tops the Filmation show in terms of storytelling, in terms of passion. Like, the people that were writing that, illustrating it, animating it, clearly love the work. There's no disrespect to late great Dean Stephan or anybody who worked on the 2002 show, but the 2002 show was sadly, I think, a bit, or especially season 2, became a bit too toy. That was a toy advert, because Mattel were like, you need to put the Snake Men in every episode, and Dean Stephan, those guys were like, what? But we've got our stories mapped out, and stuff like, I felt the way the Sorceress was in the new series, I didn't mind the character, but it was like, you can't even compare it to the original. The original had heart and warmth. And
oh, exactly. No, that is true with like how the original was. Now, when it comes to MYP, I'll admit, I mean, it had a very nice visual look to it. I mean, it was stunning to look at, and they went in a direction of where they brought in more continuity, but also still within doing that, gave you these one-off episodes. Even though things could continue, it didn't feel like you had to watch every episode in a row to know what the hell was going on. I think that, like, you go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think you're spot on with that. I think the things that lacked from the 2002 show were, like, the animation and visuals were great, except for that horrible, which at the time I was thinking, like, why are you doing that? It's going to become so dated. It was the horrible 3D rendering they would do.
Oh, the CG shit when they'd come flipping at you or certain things.
It was gonna, even back then, it was just like, that stands out like a sore thumb. And sure enough, years later, you look back at those episodes, it's like, ouch. The one problem I had with that, like I say, there was a lack of heart. Even though I enjoyed the show, I just felt it didn't really connect. You want those characters to really seem to love one another, and I didn't feel that in that show. The other problem I had was how they presented Eternia. I remember like Robert Lamb said it best. He said when we were at Filmation, we were asked to, we were just writers or storyboard artists, but we'd all come out with ideas for the world. He said what you're kind of trained to do is, you think, right, here's a bush, here's a bush. Now, what's a bush going to look like on Eternia, or what's a bush going to look like on Trolla or on Etheria? And you think of those three examples, they're all very different because the artists were like, we're building alien worlds here. Let's make it look. Sure. You can't make it look too offensively alien, unless you need that, and that's the point of the story. But with Eternia, that's clearly. Well, I always got confused as a kid, and even to this day, I find it weird that the evergreen forest isn't the big green lush things we'd see in Diamond Ray. The evergreen forest was the sparse kind of twiggy area towards Castle Grayskull, which I always thought was like, that's an ironic title. The big green lush forests outside of the royal palace were called the Fertile Plains. So I was like, okay, well then, that's fair enough. So those, right. But the thing is, those gorgeous green trees and stuff, they weren't alien enough. You looked at them and thought, okay, that's a tree, but it's so unique in its design. Or there's a weird penis-looking bush. As years later we found out, it's like, oh no, we did that on purpose. Or like you look at Trolla and it's like, okay, those are clearly phallic images. And the artist later, one of the artists admitted, yeah, we did the phallic things on purpose. But as a kid, or even as a teenager and adult, it wasn't until someone actually pointed out, I was like, really? And then someone, an ex-Filmation person confirmed it, and I was like, oh, that's unfortunate, but okay, fair enough. And that was the one thing lacking in the 2002 show. I just felt that it just didn't visually. Well, you had all these, barbarians and guys, doing all this action and cool stuff. Aside from the odd location, it just didn't feel alien enough. It was the other show and it was a Filmation show. The Filmation show that suffered with this the most was Brave Star, where Brave Star was a really, beautiful looking show, but where the 2002 suffered as well is that there just felt like so very few locations. The 2002 show was the Royal Palace, that yellow sky. I felt like we saw 90% of the series. Then
did you also feel like it? It didn't mean to interrupt you, but the thing that I got, at least from Filmation, like I said, whether it was dark, whether it was light, wherever they're at, everything felt lush and alive and different. And even though MYP had amazing animation, I still felt like a lot of the stuff just looked flat. Like there wasn't any light.
That's beautiful. That's perfectly. I remember talking when the show came out, and I was talking to Lee again, table mate at PowerCon and stuff. And I was saying, why do the backgrounds just look so flat to me? And, obviously, backgrounds are what they are. And I remember, if you look at some of the backgrounds in that show, you can see where they've copied and pasted stuff in order to, build up certain areas. And it's just like, it really kind of stands out in this day and age of, or in the day DVDs and stuff. You look at it, you're like, wow, that's really kind of glaring, where you can see where they've kind of, rubber stamped that we need to build this palace wall. So like stamp all the way across. Right. And, yeah, it's and like I was saying, when you think about the forest in those first few episodes of the 2002 series, it's just a forest with like yellow sky. It doesn't, where they're having the big battle between the heroes and villains, which is like a great battle, but it's just in a forest. There's nothing alien about it. Like when they leap on a tree branch, it's a tree branch. When they cut down a tree, it's a tree. And don't get me wrong, the Filmation show did have trees, but 9 times out of 10. A lot of the background trees and stuff, you were just like, ooh, that's weird and creepy and twisting. And some of one just has to look at the end battle in Diamond Ray, when Castle Grayskull opens and He-Man and Battle Cat run out, and then there's the battle between the heroes and villains. And yes, it's a 1980s Filmation battle. But if you look at those backgrounds, it's like a bunch of characters fighting on an alien world. It's wonderful. You watch it going, this is fantasy right here. You've got this guy with the springy legs hitting all these robots, but in the background there's this endless possibility of like, where does, I always say, it's like, we always got, if you think about the pans of Castle Grayskull, you'd always get that pan where it goes, Castle Grayskull's on the right hand side of the screen, the camera goes across to the right, there's Grayskull, there's the Abyss. What's beyond that? You never know certain things, and I love kind of that mystery. And even, when you look at certain things, what the background artists did, where they just weren't making backgrounds, they made up a mythology for it. And yes, it remained largely unseen. But what an amazing connection this is about to be. But Robert Lamb wrote Into the Abyss because he was looking at one of the background things, one of the background drawings, and they'd written notes about the construction of Castle Grayskull, and they talked about the Abyss. And at that point, Robert, I remember Robert saying, like, he was reading this thing thinking, huh, the abyss. And it said something like, I think the description is in the, like, where Grayskull's power is stored. And Robert, like, was, well, there's something that could be interesting, you know, and then writes an entire episode that becomes, like, one of the best. But that's because he was inspired by someone not just designing a background, going, let's really go into the mythology of what this Castle Grayskull is. And, you know, the wonderful thing that I don't think many people know about, but it's one of my favorite origins of Grayskull was the castle, you know, the skull and the kind of, if you look at Grayskull's design, the formation series, you've got those, you know, weird viney type things, but you've also got those kind of legs sticking out the side. And it said that Castle Grayskull and the bridge leading up to it are two beasts that were locked in battle and then frozen in time, kind of thing. So the bone bridge that goes up to Castle Grayskull is the spine of another creature, and then you've got Grayskull opposite it. And stuff like that, you're like,
and what an amazing depiction again. And
yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's what I was going to say. That's the one thing of MYP that I think upset me the most, was looking at their Castle Grayskull. It didn't feel alive, earthly, evil, spooky. You know, there was so much mystery. It was so like, you know, we said flat, but it felt too fresh and new. Nothing about that felt ancient to me.
Well, no, the problem, I mean, one of the episodes it was a great episode. I think it was Larry DiTilio penned it, was the one with the Dragon's Brood, it might have been called. And the episode, like the big battle at the end, takes place in almost like Castle Grayskull's courtyard. And it's just like four walls and like a courtyard. You're like, that's Castle Grayskull? What I loved, and this, you know, I always credit him for this. I mean, I credit him for a lot of things, but Emiliano, who was the artist on the 2002 comic for MV Creations, he made that 2002 Castle Grayskull. He put a lot of filmation elements into it. So if you look at those comics, you've got that kind of, you know, very straight up, straight down design of Castle Grayskull, but he added the viney, twisty things that were reaching up to the castle. And
very good touch.
Oh, really nice. And like the throne room, which was, I think in the cartoon, was just almost like a pyramid staircase. Emiliano put the original kind of skull throne behind it, kind of thing, and I was just like, oh, that's great. I mean, you know, small little touches like that I think would have made the 2002 show just a little bit better. But so from Revelation, what I think they're going to do, I had an amazing chat with this. Was it on my birthday? I can't remember. With Lee, we chatted about it for ages. We went to see what did we see? Went to see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And then afterwards came out, we chatted about that obviously for a bit. And then we sat in this restaurant just talking about the new series. And like, we're nerds, you know, we don't sit there all the time talking about He-Man, if you can believe that. But we were sat there and it's just like, you know, come up with ideas or even just where the series could go. And Lee came up with this idea, not necessarily saying it's a good thing, but he goes, I think what they're going to do is explore what the power of Castle Grayskull is, or what the power is. And he said, I truly believe, this is him coming up with his own theory, you know, years later, probably be proven completely wrong. And he's not one to second guess or anything, but he's just like, he goes, he feels he's seen a lot of this in modern storytelling. But he said, I can imagine they'll go with the route that Teela will discover, you know, find the power of Grayskull, whatever she's off to do. And she'll discover that the power of Grayskull isn't one thing. It's almost like a culmination of all these powers coming together, all these kind of spirits and identities, that the power of Grayskull is, you know, imagine like every being on Eternia creates that power of Grayskull, as opposed to the power of Grayskull being a giant orb in the castle, which I'd prefer. But he said, he's not, like Lee's not saying that's a good idea, but he said, I feel that that's kind of where modern storytelling culture has gone, into this kind of society kind of group thing of like, let's all work together. And actually, I know a few things, I don't know if it's happened yet on the Princess's Power series, that will eventually go down that path. So it's like, I can almost see that them doing that, but we don't know. Like, we're really in the dark about it. One of the other things about PowerCon was, me and Lee were talking, and one of the guys introduced on stage, this guy, he's the, I think he's one of the producers, forgive me if I'm getting his title wrong. He might be like an exec producer or producer, but his name's Ted Biaselli. I think that, I'm always confused how you pronounce his surname. Or as Kevin kept calling him, Teddy's up here. Ted Biaselli is someone, it's one of those things, it's so weird to admit this. We were friends on Facebook many, many years ago. And I didn't like, you know, this was before Netflix was like, Netflix. It was just, I think it was whatever it was before it was Netflix. And then his name started to pop up on certain things. And I remember a few PowerCons ago, someone said, oh, Ted, he's like working on the new She-Ra cartoon. And I was like, Ted Biaselli. I was like the one. You know, I'm thinking of as like fellow fan Ted Biaselli. I'm not thinking like
Right.
Netflix producer Ted Biaselli. So I think it was. I had no idea he was involved in this He-Man cartoon until literally I'm in that room and he walks up on stage. I'm like, it's fucking Ted again. And they were saying like Ted has really pushed this, and like Ted, I think he was also executive producer on there's like a Dark Crystal TV series. He's worked on that. He kind of pushed for that, and it's like, fuck me, guy's not only on big bucks, but he's also pushing forward his dream projects. This was the thing. I didn't get to talk to Ted at PowerCon. Also, I'm like, you know, Ted to me was just like, it's like a fucking huge big deal. I'm not going to walk up and be like, hey, remember when I used to share YouTube videos with you, like of my He-Man videos? Because that just seems really redundant.
Yeah, now he just hides you on Facebook, and it's like, get out of here, James.
No, he's actually. This is the funny thing. So Lee comes back at one point. Lee goes away from the table, and he comes back, and he goes, "Oh my god!" And I was like, "What?" He goes, "I've just been speaking to Ted," and I was like, "Oh, Biaselli." He was like, "Yeah." He goes, I was just talking to him about the Filmation show, or like, you know, not what they've got planned for Revelation, because Ted can't go, this is what we're going to do. But he said, we were talking about it, and he goes, he knows his stuff. And I was like, how do you mean? He goes, he clearly loves the Filmation cartoon. And I was like, yeah, okay. And he goes, no. He goes, I was talking about certain things. And then Ted would kind of, not interrupt, but kind of preempt and say like, oh, blah, 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 Guardian of Grayskull from Double Trouble. And Lee's like, yeah, that's literally like Lee's favorite, not episode, but thing. Like, was the, you know, the head of the Guardian in Double Trouble is like, you know, answer this question and you'll get the power of Grayskull, or whatever, this giant head, because Lee owns that background. So of course he loves that. It's a beautiful looking background, that giant like head with the big pointy bits coming out, the big horns. And so Ted brought that up, and Lee was just like almost immediately sold. It was like, oh wow, this guy knows his stuff. And Lee said he was mentioning other things about the Filmation show, and he was just like, he just knew his stuff. And then I was talking to Val, and this may be completely unproven, but Val was like, I'm 90% sure they're using like a few of your books, like the Animated Adventures Guide and not necessarily the unofficial guide, but like I think the Animated Adventures Guide that I wrote for Dark Horse, because they're using it not like, you know, almost like as research, going, what about, I can imagine this is what it would be like if you're in a meeting and you're pitching ideas for storage. You probably go through it and go, there's this episode with this guy, Count Marzo. Do you think we can do anything with him? Or this evil, you know for a fact Evil Seed's probably going to pop up. So it's stuff like, I can imagine they go through the episodes and going, or like Chakotay, they go, there's this witch. And Ted, again, Kevin Smith was talking, because the other thing I didn't say, I was about to, was so maybe 2 days after, so when I was talking to Mark Bernardin before the announcement, I said to him, when are you guys recording another episode of Fat Man and Batman? He goes, we're doing one on, I think it was Tuesday. And I was like, oh my God. I said, I'm in like the Valley on Tuesday. And he goes, you should come along to the show. And I was like, I might just do that. So literally I went back after PowerCon, booked tickets, and went to see a live recording of Fat Man or Batman, which I'd always wanted to do anyway. But now I'm sitting there in like the second row, and they're talking about working on this new He-Man and She-Ra cartoon, or He-Man cartoon. And they were talking about Ted, and they were saying, like, it was Mark Bernard, Kevin Smith, and the three other writers. And Kevin was saying, like, Ted is like, he goes, usually a producer coming into a writer's meeting is almost like a big no-no, because it's like, no, producers usually the people that you send notes to, and they're like, no, we don't want, you know, change this, change that. But he said Ted sits there in a lot of the writers' meetings and says, oh, you know, they'll say they're coming up with a plot for something. Maybe they say, like, I don't know, this is me just reaching here, but Kevin Smith, maybe he's sitting there and he goes, oh, what about like an episode like with a witch or something? Maybe Ted will be like, oh my God, there was a witch they're called Chakotay. So it's that kind of thing. I think that's where Ted injects that love of filmation that I think can only benefit the show. And then you get, you know,
it's good to know there's research. I mean, that's good job, but knowing that they're doing the research, and at least whether it's coming from everything you did, because obviously you're the fountain of information, you have everything that's ever known for the, you know, the show itself. But to know that whether,
I mean, but that's also like, that doesn't necessarily guarantee. And I'm not, you know, erring on the side of caution. But I remember when I read the series Bible for the She-Ra show, I went through that and I was like, oh my God, this is beautiful. Someone who's written this has clearly watched all the a lot of the Filmation show and clearly loved it. And then I saw the first season. I was like, I can see elements, but I'm not quite seeing the connection at all. This is, and then
Yeah, I still don't know who watched that damn show, because when I sat there and watched every interview with all of them, they said, yeah, we watched a couple clips. I'm like, well, that's good research. But no, with at least what you're saying, it looks like they definitely have done a lot of research. And when they're making, like you said, the claim of, pick up where the original left off. Now, like you said, yeah, obviously it's not going to pick right up, and it's not going to look like Filmation. But my hopes is, at least from saying, it'll pick up where it left off, is that fans will be able to immediately recognize anybody that was from the cartoon. Now, I'm sure they're going to show respect. It's not, I doubt they would completely change the design of He-Man or Mechanic or somebody. It's like, hey, I know who these people are, but with a different design, a different style, if you will. But that's what I'm hoping. That, at least, if anything, get me excited. It's like, they're adults and they should look like we remembered, but in a new animated style.
I think what the makers of this show, you'd have to be stupid not to realize it, is that, and I think you and I have talked about this before, and I've had this conversation with many people, is the Filmation He-Man is still the most recognizable version of He-Man. The Filmation Skeletor voice, character, look, still the most recognizable interpretation of He-Man. I would not be surprised, this is me again, I've got no inside information, I would not be surprised if they haven't reached out to Alan Oppenheimer, if they actually approach him and get him to... I mean, I can't guarantee that, because in the modern world... But I know, see, Kevin Smith, when he casts stuff or makes something, he loves nostalgia, and he loves paying homage to what came before. He does it in all of his work. He looks back and he goes, what made that great? Hey, let's... Like, in his episodes of The Flash and that series in general, there's so much of a love for the original... like the Flash TV series of the 90s, or like, I was recently watching, literally a couple of weeks ago, I needed to catch up with the most recent season of Supergirl, or sorry, the previous season, I think it was like season 4 or something. Lex Luthor shows up in it, and I was like, okay, the guy they cast for Lex Luthor was the guy who played Lex Luthor.
2.5 Men.
Say again?
Yeah, wasn't he the guy who's playing Lex Luthor? Isn't he? I mean, in the Supergirl series, isn't he the guy that played on 2.5 Men or something?
Yeah, but he was Lex Luthor's son in the Superman 4: The Quest for Peace. John.
Oh no, shit! Yeah, I forgot about that, because I hate that fucking movie. It's terrible.
I saw that film in the cinema. Imagine that. There's some like horrific. Yeah, I saw Quest for Peace in the cinema.
I love giving Tyler crap about that. I was like, oh my god! I was like, the girl's breathing in space. How? How?
Somewhere
but
Tyler's ears just started burning, and he's like,
He's like, that fucking Joe, because Tyler loves that Superman 4, which that's great, man. He can love that. I just always like giving him shit about it. But go ahead.
It's a goofy ass movie, Superman 4, but yeah. So, like I say, so that those shows that Kevin Smith has been recently working on stuff. I don't think he's worked on the shows in the last maybe year or two, but he understands that nostalgia paves the way for the previous audience to really hop on board with it. So I don't think he's silly enough to isolate and go like, I think he's going to have a lot of say. If he's a showrunner, I'm guessing, I'm not 100% sure on this, but I'm going to guess he has a lot of say in what designs are used and what isn't. I think you're going to see like Orko looking like I say, I almost think that, I'm not saying it's going to be the 2002 visual, but it's going to be kind of like that, where it's like, let's take those designs that you can instantly recognize who they are. And let's face it, with that 2002 show, we didn't need anybody to say anybody's name ever, because you knew.
I'm glad you said it, and not to cut you off, but I do have to say that was the great thing. When you looked at any of the characters from MYP's cartoon, they're immediately recognizable while being, boom, souped up to be a little more, animated or detailed. But the other thing is, you could have put all of them in black and white even before the show was announced and identified them. And that's the thing that She-Ra could not do for the new Netflix. If you would have put them all in black and white and just put them in front of you, like, who the fuck's that? Who's that? You would probably know She-Ra.
No, agreed. That's a really good thing. I mean, like, I don't think there's, I'm not going to be someone who says like, oh, you're not allowed to redesign ever. But yeah, I think if you're going to redesign, there has to be a purpose, and you still have to acknowledge where that original design came from. So, like from what I remember of the new She-Ra cartoon, the Froster redesign just boggles the mind. It's like, I can see what you've done, but also, no
logic. Why is she a person that carries the power within ice within them, where their weakness would be heat and to be warm? She's wearing a parka. I hate that design.
Also, like, I mean, this is a very dangerous thing I'm about to say, but you're going to make the girl with ice powers an Inuit? You know what I mean? It's like,
I know what you mean. No, I know what you mean.
Yeah, you're really going to go down that path. It's like that to me was a bit like, ooh, that's almost like some. I love the cartoon Mask, from the 1980s. Mask Crusaders, like one of my favorite shows ever. But that show dates in the fact that the Chinese guy in the show, Bruce Sato, quotes Confucius all the time, and wise man say, literally says stuff like that, and you're like, oh, that's dated a bit. But at the time, and in hindsight, it's like, I can see what they were doing. They were, Bruce Sato literally Sato was almost Matt Tracker's Kato kind of thing. He's my wise, honourable sidekick. The only thing Bruce Sato didn't do was martial arts, which I'm surprised. But you know what I mean? It's like in this day and age, for a show
No, you're right. Political correctness. It's like, why would you do that? You're right. That was like for me, it's like a big no-no. Like that should not have been done at all. But
in this day,
Go ahead. I have one question about your voice. Not to cut you off, but when you're talking about voices, and you were talking about Alan Oppenheimer, which, yes, of course, iconic as Skeletor. And we know that was it Brian Dobson who did Skeletor in NYPD? Was that
Brian Dobson? Yeah.
Okay, right. In which he did his kind of like it felt like an homage, but it felt fresh and new. Now, as much as I love Alan, and it would be cool to have him do that, I still in a way would want a new voice actor. Now, the thing is, I don't know what I want it to feel exactly like Filmation, close to it, slightly a little more darker. But it's like I don't know how old Alan Oppenheimer is, or if he'd even be willing. How does he?
What I was going to kind of go down the path with my trail of thought with the Alan Oppenheimer thing, even though I'm about a million tangents. What I thought with the Alan Oppenheimer is, if let's say in a bizarre twist they do hire him to play Skeletor, I don't think they would get him to do that voice because one, I don't think he can reach that voice as much as he tries anymore.
It's a lot of power behind it that he did.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like think about that laugh and stuff. That's a young man's voice, or like a 40-year-old's voice or something. But I think what they would do is have him almost play it darker. Like I think Dobson's Skeletor was one of the best. Like that's one of the best. There was like a few, you know what I mean? But his Skeletor I thought was great because it was just on the side of aiming towards that Filmation style of like, I'll get you, He-Man, but it was also he was down here somewhere, and he was just like very, It
felt a little darker, a little more sinister in a way.
Exactly, and like the Filmation guys. I remember Rob Lamb in an interview I think I did for one of the UK DVDs. He said when we first saw an episode like finished, we were all just sat there going, what have they done with Skeletor's voice? Because they were all expecting, as he says in like one of the interviews, like, I will get you, He-Man. And then it was like, I will get you, He-Man. He's like, where does that come from? But then they obviously, what that did was that it kind of, the scripts were guided by that character of Skeletor, which is why he becomes somewhat of a comedy villain as the show goes on, because the writers are almost writing to that voice. And it's like, oh man, if we have Skeletor fly up on a rocket and go, Meow, then you can have that noise of him, and that's where it became more a comical show, or he became a more comical villain. But yeah, in terms of voices and stuff, I think, I honestly think they're going to try really hard to aim for those Filmation voices. Because I think, and in fairness, the only problem I love Cam Clark as a voice actor, like Leonardo on Ninja Turtles, Kaneda in the original Akira, all this stuff. Like one of my favorite voice actors, one of the loveliest guys I've ever met in my life as well. He was the voice of this character Dog Tanyan on this European show called Dog Tanyan, which was like an anime, a Japanese Spanish cartoon, but animated in Japan. But a really, really cool show. And that was the first time I ever heard Cam Clark's voice prior to Leonardo. My problem with Cam Clark, I thought his Prince Adam was great. Like, in terms of Adam, perfect. When Cam Clark did He-Man, that wasn't a natural fit for him because it was Cam Clark doing an impression of a heroic man. So it was
I see what you mean, yeah.
It's like me doing
a little over the top, right? How he talks. Yeah.
It's like, hey, this is James Eatock now talking about something to do with He-Man. It's me clearly putting on a heroic voice, whereas John Irwin's natural voice is deep and kind of like, he dropped it like maybe an octave, but he wasn't pushing it. If anything, John Irwin's Adam voice is the unnatural one. His He-Man voices, but he did such a good job with both voices because guess what? He's a voice actor. He was able to, manipulate somewhere in between. So, and Cam Clark, don't get me wrong, an amazing, talented voice actor, but his He-Man just felt like someone putting on a voice, and that's what the problem. I really liked Gary Chalk's He-Man and the New Adventures of He-Man. It was sometimes a little bit high pitched, but in general, And again, like with this new show, I think they're going to cast very wisely. I think, as you were saying, I think the designs are going to reflect what we saw. And I don't want to say updated in that. I honestly think we'll see Tila with a bun and a tiara. I don't think we're going to see her with a ridiculously long, unnecessary ponytail that makes no sense in battle. I think they're going to look at that filmation style and be like, okay, let's take those elements of what works. I honestly it's going to be an interesting story. I think, when it was originally announced that Teela's going to be, everybody's like, oh, it's going to be all about Teela. It's like, to be honest, that's not such a bad thing because that is one of the best female characters around that time. But I don't think.
She is. It's just, I think it was misleading how they said it. They almost made it seem like the whole entire season was going to be about her. But then they came back to say, no, that's not how it's going to be. Yes, first couple episodes,
Yeah, they kind of ballsed up with that. But even so, I was just like, no, it's not going to be the series. It was obviously that's where the series starts, but you're going to get this story arc. The only thing I'm worried what they will do, and it's a tricky one because it works and it doesn't work, is I'm worried that they'll just give up on the secret identity thing and say, look, at this point...
That was my next question I guess I can't get to because I had a couple more. I was going to say, what do you think? Do you think they hopefully will keep the secret identity because it's a very important, story plot device? But now I hope you're wrong and I hope I am too. I don't want it to get revealed.
Because that was my problem with the new She-Ra show. When she just started revealing herself to everybody, I was like, what's the point? I wanted the what I loved about the original She-Ra is that, and the same with He-Man, is that She-Ra and He-Man are the best parts of Adam and Adora, like superpowered. It's like they take everything that makes them those people. It's like you're kind, you're wise, you're strong-willed, you're heroic, you got all this moral standards and stuff. But guess what? Now you can move a planet, or now you can do this, and it's those things. And it's a cheesy as hell line, but it's that whole thing of great power comes great responsibility.
And even as He-Man and She-Ra, they can value and appreciate what it's like to be Adam and Adora in a whole different life too.
That's the beauty of it. The problem with the new She-Ra show I had in the first season, which is the only one I watched, is the moment like she just feels like a what's the best way to put it? Almost like a computer projection, because it's like 1 minute she's Adora and now she's just Adora in a different costume. It's like no. I understand that does work, but also it doesn't. Because
I'm glad you said costume, because that's what I said. I said it feels like she cosplays as a different character. It's like, oh, she's slightly stronger, but she acts the same as Adora did, and there's no difference. Which, like you said, you've only watched in season 1 and not the rest of them, but you probably even noticed with season 1 is the character of She-Ra. That's what saddens me about the cartoon the most, is she's almost a secondary character, like she's not important. And when she is She-Ra, everybody from the villains to the heroes call her Adora. They never address this warrior, this hero, as She-Ra. And it's kind of sad. It's like, this is a character that's supposed to be, a hero, somebody you wish would come to save the day. And you don't get that feel from her, unfortunately. But I think this Revelations, they look like they're on hopefully a good path, at least what they're saying and they're presenting. And now, like, we've heard what you said about the voices and about how hopefully the characters look. The two other things that I want to touch on is I think they said it's going to be maybe 3D when they described it like a 3D animated art style. And I think there's a movie on Netflix that premiered called Klaus, and it's about Santa Claus. Yeah. And it's a mix of 2D, 3D art, and it looks beautiful. Actually, Dushin is the one that recommended this.
He sent me the link when I was, I think, a few weeks back. He was like, look at this. And I was like, that's beautiful.
Now, what do you think? Now, obviously, it won't have that look, but if they did a new style with this type of 3D and, the cartoon animated art, is that something you'd look forward to? Because it sounds like it'd be good if they could nail it, because they nailed it for Klaus, but that's a different style of look. But for that show or for that movie, it worked.
I just think with something like that Klaus, it looks as good as it does, because obviously it's got all the budget poured into that, and that's that. With a 26 episode series, let's say the He-Man show is, you could never get it to look even remotely that good. It would be like we've got. I still think there's going to be basic 2D animation. If they're going to go 3D, then fine, and I'll get proved wrong. But
if they went 3D, would it slightly scare you? Like you said, we don't know anything. It's all hypotheticals.
No, but if it was a show that I still have yet to watch, but I know fans raved about it for many years, was the 3D Ninja Turtles cartoon that happened. Oh God, maybe about 8 years ago or something.
You have to have Nathan jump in with that, because
that one's actually
much about that cartoon.
Surprisingly good. I was sort of hesitant with the way that it was looking, but I gave it a shot and kind of fell in love with it. Now towards the end, it starts to lose its brilliance, but that those first good chunks of episodes were really well done, I thought.
Yeah, I saw like I think randomly I was in LA and I turned on the telly and it was like new series premiering and it was that show and I was like, oh, they're doing a new Ninja Turtle show and I watched it and I was like, it starts off and I'm like, oh, CG, and then by the end of the episode I was like, oh, that was actually really quite nice and I kind of got into it, but I didn't see enough of the series to pass any kind of real judgment. But I think the thing fans often worry about is, and I understand, we've kind of we get different kinds of He-Man over the years, but I think fans are like, I wonder what it's going to look like. And it's like, that's, all well and good, but first and foremost, I want that story. I want those characters to, if Teela's going to be in a bunch of episodes to begin with, I want it to be that Teela from the 80s. I want it to be like headstrong, the fiery, the cliched fiery red.
And you just led into the last thing that I was going to discuss is the story and also what do you expect. Now, when we talk about continuity, like how we said with MYP, that had a good mix. It was continuity, but it still could give you one-off episodes. With like the new She-Ra, you feel like you have to watch every single one to know what's going on. What are you hoping? Do you hope you get that MYP feel? Because that's, if anything, what I hope is we get a story that, yes, has continuity, can acknowledge things that happen in certain other episodes, but not constant to where it feels like it'll drag the story on. Sometimes I feel like it drags the story too much if you have to keep cliffhangering to here to go.
Really. I feel that I think it's just a modern thing with modern storytelling. I think it will just be that continuous thing because I think that's just the way, because of the way shows are binge watched these days. And, and it's a Netflix show. Come on, like Netflix are all about. I recently watched, I think, all 4 seasons of The Good Place. I put it on maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I thought, oh, this is that show my parents watched, and I've heard good things about it. Let me start watching it. And literally, I was getting on with stuff on my laptop while I was watching it. And, within a couple of weeks, I'd watched all 4 seasons because it's that thing of, don't get me wrong, I was gripped and I really enjoyed the series. But it was one of those things where when an episode ends, 5, 4, 3, 2, you're into the next episode.
Which I think you can give credit to Mandalorian because, I had to get the free trial. And, of course, I might try the month to finish it off. But Mandalorian, they made you wait each week for the next episode.
Yeah, in fairness, Netflix have done that with Better Call Saul. I think they did it with that. Yeah, and I think
that's what because it works. I mean, like I said, it worked for the Mandalorian, and you could still watch any of those. The ones at least I've watched 3 of them so far, and each one stands on its own. Like, even though they're connecting, you can still enjoy them. The same thing with Cobra Kai. I don't know if you've got to enjoy that. It's an amazing. It is. It's just amazing. But the thing is with that, even with that, having continuity where, yes, things connect, they still get good one-off. So I'm hoping it has that flow. Right.
Yeah, I think, I'm just going by Kevin Smith's kind of trying to get inside his mind, which is probably a wonderfully scary place and creative place. But I just feel that as a showrunner, he's going to aim for that kind of continuous story. Like you say, I think it would be great if they do, a one-off episode where you focus on, I don't want to focus on like a character and see I want to see, if you focus on a story, I want it to be like an episode of He-Man where it's like, oh, right, now we're going to be in the desert and we're uncovering these ruins of this ancient pyramid
because you don't get those. What you said there, again, not to interrupt, but you bring up good points. That's the thing is all these things where there's a mysterious artifact or some just one-off different crazy villain you'd never expect. Those are fun, but if they could do little pieces like that and still keeping it fun and flowing continuity, like I said, I'm looking forward to the potential because I think the potential is there. I'm definitely excited for this more than I was for the She-Ra one that I did not enjoy, but this I'm hoping can go in a good positive direction and hopefully could go on for a lot of years. Hopefully.
I honestly think, like, I messaged Ted when I got back from America and I thought, how do I message this guy? And I even said to him without him thinking, dude, we're not hiring, because there was I'm not going to say a lot, but there were more than a few people who on Twitter were tagging Kevin Smith and messaging Kevin Smith and saying, you need to hire James Eatock, blah, blah, blah. And I kept saying that's really, that is really sweet. But also, you got to realize Netflix don't sit there and be like, right, we're going to do a new He-Man cartoon. Let's hire an expert because that's, in a way, that's the last person you want to hire because you want to do your own vision. It's like if you said to me, James, let me think of something.
Friday the 13th.
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, right. Yeah, okay. Write a Friday the 13th animated series. Okay, so we're
Yes,
getting.
I want an animated series of Jason killing the shit out of people. No, go
Yeah,
ahead.
I like, and no disrespect to you. It's like I know you're a massive fan, but if you're getting paid the big bucks by, excuse me, I'm losing my voice, by Netflix. I'm just gonna have a swig of water. Excuse me.
Okay, no problem.
If I was getting the big bucks by Netflix, I think you're less inclined to go to someone who's an expert and say, okay, what shall I do? You're more inclined to go, let me rent out all the episodes, let me read as many books and do as much research, because it's not about taking credit, but you're getting that knowledge yourself, and you're able to. If someone hired me on a He-Man cartoon, they're only going to get out of me what I'm going to say. If you know what I mean, it's like, tell us.
Well, I kind of get that. Like, again, now I understand, like you said, they can research to then kind of learn themselves. But I feel like with you, and it's not like, stroking your ego, but I feel like when you do have sometimes an expert that knows absolutely everything, you're getting their love, their feel, their passion, and you can maybe that could rub off on them. That's why sometimes I wish they could have some super passionate people like you that have the research, but the reason you are different is you are the complete encyclopedia of knowledge for masters. And if they're doing a cartoon that they're claiming, picks up where the original left off, is leaving off, you're the perfect person. I think that would be somebody that could work with it. Now, like I said, I understand what you mean about,
Yeah.
don't say that, because you might say, oh no, you should do this, you should do that, and feel like you're going to tell them everything and they're not learning. But sometimes I think a little help works. And that's why, people are pushing, including me. That's why we were pushing for you to be a part of it, is you could bring so much knowledge and ideas and things that maybe they wouldn't get, because yes, sometimes you do need that super fan, if you will. But I understand completely what you mean. But sometimes I think it's certain situations that help, and I just think you'd be the perfect person. But
No, I appreciate that a lot, man. I mean, there's a lot. There was it's quite funny. Like one of my friends, he works for Disney. He works like in the industry, quite high up as well. He phoned me like after PowerCon, and I would. Yeah, one of the things he said. The other thing I can't really say what he said. It was to do with a certain Return of Faker cartoon. But he said,
hey, what's going on, Return of Faker? Man, the fuckers canceled that son of a bitch. I was waiting to see that thing like crazy, and then bam, it went right out the shitter. But sorry, go ahead.
No, so with regards to he phoned me and he was talking about Revelation, and he said, you haven't been approached to work on the show, have you? I was like, no, not at all. And he goes, I guarantee, he said, if you lived out in LA and you were known, kind of thing, he goes, I think they'd be more inclined to get in touch with you. He goes, don't get me wrong, because they'd love to, if they're going to hire an expert, they want to have them in a room, not on a Skype call.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, it sounds weird. It's like, as we're doing Skype, like one of my friends, my housemate and her boyfriend, have literally in the early stages of breaking through into Hollywood, and they're doing so well. I can't tell you like the kind of people they're rubbing shoulders with. They've done a lot over Skype, but the most beneficial part of their career thus far was they did 3 months in America at the start of the year, and then and a month in America back in September, and they were doing like 3 to 4 meetings a day. Plus they met Ted Danson. I was like, that's pretty fucking cool. But they went to all these meetings, and they said like it's so much easier to pitch yourself and talk when you're in a room rather than talking over Skype, going, oh, maybe we could do this, and maybe. So I can appreciate that being out there might be a different story, but that's just one of those things. So I mean, I kind of worked on the 2002 show. They said, tell us about Count Marza. So I sat there and wrote a bio for Count Marza, and then they end up using Count Marza in the show, and obviously a very different version. The same with Evil Seed. It was like, tell us about Evil Seed. I'm like, okay, here's a bio on Evil Seed, and then they do the Evil Seed.
And I love you're right, and I love what they did with their Count Marzo. I was not a super fan of their Evil Seed. I love the original Evil Seed, but I see what you mean with that. You're right.
So I mean, like, so I messaged Ted, and I said, like, I just want you to know, and I did. There was no disrespect to anybody champion for me. I was like, it's really lovely that people are doing that, but I want you to know, I'm not actively looking at you guys going, why aren't I working on the show? I said, like, I wish you nothing but the best, kind of thing. And Ted and I talked over the years before, but like not for a long time. And I said, like, I just want, I want you to know that I'm really looking forward to everything I've heard from, Kevin Smith, a few things and stuff. And I said, and Lee kind of sang your praises because you mentioned the Guardian of Castle Grayskull.
Right.
So I said, like, I wish, and he got back to me within 10 minutes or something. He was so sweet. And like, whenever I've messaged him, like, just go, how's it going? He's like, really good. And he's not going to give away any spoilers. And I'm looking for any, but I'm just looking to, it's almost like I'm not owed anything by these people, but I just want to know that it's in good hands. And every time I've messaged Ted, it just, and like anybody could say that. I could have messaged, the people that worked on the She-Ra show, and they probably would have said, oh, it's in great hands. And I championed that show before I'd even seen it, because I was like, I've read the series Bible. I like some of the designs because I'd only seen She-Ra at that point, and then the show happens, and I'm like, whoa, this is very different from what I read and what I expected to see visually. So there's no guarantee that what we fans, and don't get me wrong, when I say what we fans want, all of us are different. We all want different things. Some of us want the Filmation cartoon, others want the 2002 show. A few people want the Savage cartoon. Guess what? That's never going to happen. Also,
true. It's no. Like you said, we're not ever going to be able to please everybody because, like you said, there are the people that want, from the original 4 mini comic style, then Filmation or MYP or anything different. But the thing is, people got to respect that we're all, like I said, that was the thing that I think people that are younger and getting into stuff now, instead of, like I always say, calling us trolls and a lot of bad names, just remember we've always been passionate fans even since we're kids, and we've been critiquing He-Man or anything that we loved when there's slightly different changes. So just remember, we're just passionate fans, and we have that right to want a certain vision. Are we going to get what's in our head? Probably not, but just, never dismiss us, call us names when, if all we're doing is just trying to give a little insight of something we want. And yes, there could be people on both sides that act like complete idiots. We know that. But that's why, we speak out like how I'm doing this now, and it's not saying anything negative to anybody that's working on the new cartoon for Revelation at all, because I'm trying to be so optimistic with this because, yes, we've been burned on a couple things. We've had the limbo of that damn movie, which I thought they were supposed to start shooting that sucker back in July. Nothing. But like the movies in limbo, it's like we just want something to happen, and hopefully it can please at least a good majority of the fans, and yes, hopefully then bring in new fans, but you got to at least try to go for the core audience that's always been there and supporting stuff. But I understand them wanting to do something new, but I guess we'll see how
you have to branch out, because when you look at the He-Man audience, the core audience, we're not talking tens of thousands. You're talking about maybe close to, I don't know, 6,000-7,000 or whatever of core fans who absolutely love it, are passionate about it, and will kind of commit to everything about it. But then you've got your casual fans, and I think that's where you need to kind of pay homage to the Filmation thing and kind of take that storytelling, because you're like, we need to appeal to those people that will be like, oh, I remember that Filmation cartoon, it was great. And then you see something new that has elements of that, you're like, oh my God, this is just like, I think if that 2002 cartoon happened now, it would be really heavily celebrated. I almost feel that it came at the wrong time.
I do too. I believe it. And I said the one thing, and it might sound insane, it'll be really repetitive, but it came on Cartoon Network. It was on, yes, different times of the day, and of course, sometimes kids aren't watching, people aren't watching, adults are at work. But the big thing was, it's on a cable station. The Ninja Turtles, when that new cartoon came out almost around the similar time, I remember that was on Saturday morning, Foxbox, a local TV channel that everybody can watch. I've said not everybody has the money. And when you don't have the fans that can't pay to see this stuff, you're missing a good chunk of the fandom. And I think if that MYP cartoon could have just appeared and been on like Fox 36 on a Foxbox with Ninja Turtles Saturday morning, same time all the time, that could have helped. But you're right, it came out at a wrong time. But if that MYP cartoon would have came out now, like you said, how things are,
it would be championed. It would be, people would be like, oh my God, this is, like I say, the changes I would make would give it more heart and change the look of the world. But in terms of the writing, I thought was really good. 9 times out of 10. And I thought the stories were really good. I thought they lost it obviously with the Snake Man season, where the shit hit the fan. But when you look at like that Rise of the Snake Man two-parter, when Merman gets turned to a statue and breaks up, you're like, they just kill. That was one of the most amazing scenes I think I've ever seen.
It was a shocker, yeah.
Merman gets turned to stone, the statue collapses and just breaks up, and you're like, holy shit. But then that's made all the more better when Skeletor just effortlessly like clicks his fingers and restores Merman. And also,
do you remember how the fandom, back to Craig, I remember the fandom, how nuts they went in two different ways. First, when Merman was killed, they're like, how the hell could you kill Merman? That's terrible. And then some people were like, well, that's ballsy, that's good. And then when Skeletor just brings him back, they were like, oh, that was cheap and stupid, they should have kept him dead. So it was weird.
I loved it when he just brought him back with a click of the fingers, because it
was cool.
It showed how powerful he was, but also it showed he values him, regardless of Merman being a clown. Skeletor was still like, I still need you because you're like my aquatic guy who can get in places and do all this shit. So
snap of fingers, bring up. That was cool as shit. That was a good moment. That was.
It's like if that 2002 show had come out now, people would be like, "Holy fuck, they got this right!" Yep. Because even if it was exactly the same as what that show was now, just came on. I think people were like, it's so funny. Whenever I talk about He-Man, like with a casual fan or something, I'll say something blah 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 2002 cartoon. They're like, "What?"
And it's sad because you're right. That majority of fans didn't even know it happened. It was such a quick time from being on the cartoon and with those toys that nobody knew. But now with social media, how things are, you're right. Everybody would have known there was a new He-Man cartoon. There was new He-Man toys. And
imagine like if that show, if it just popped up on Netflix now. I think even if they just released on Netflix, if Mattel said, let's just put that to maybe they will do that in advance of Rebel.
That's a fun thing. Hell, they did it with the Filmation one. I mean, it'd be great to see them put on the M1.
If they put it up, I think it would get so many new eyes on the product to the point where I honestly believe this is all me just thinking out loud right now. I think a lot of people would think it's a new cartoon. They'll be like, "Oh my god, we've seen the new He-Man cartoon," and then the copyright date comes at the end, like 2002.
Right.
That's this cartoon like 18 years old. But I genuinely believe if they just put it on Netflix just like randomly, I think people would lose their mind and also think it's a new show. And
well, that's the thing. Could you picture that? First, they think it's a new show, and then it comes to an end, and then by the time they're done with that, here comes the new revelation. Like, this don't look nothing like that. What's happening with NYP? I want more. Then you got people pissed again. It's like you can't win.
I don't know.
But did you want any closing thoughts on Revelation before we do our commentary? Because this has been fun.
Things like, I was joking with Dusan the other day. I'm always like, I always like to poke the bear, as it were, because, he's
fun to poke.
very passionate about certain things. And like, and sometimes it's annoying because he's right before I admit he's right. So, when the all-female Ghostbusters film happened, when that was announced, I was like, oh, okay. And I saw the trailer and I was like, trailer isn't very funny. But I went in and I went to see that movie. Dusan was like, it's going to be shit. And I'm like, you can't say that until you've seen it. And then I see the film and I come out of the cinema and I was like, wow, you've got that amazing cast and it was just not funny. You got a writer at the helm, you got all this talent, and it was just an incredibly unfunny movie. And I couldn't believe it. I was like,
way too hard, yeah.
How do they got this so right? So the other day they released a few press photos of the forthcoming Ghostbusters Afterlife trailer. So just some photos. And I said to Dusan, like, how come you're not up in arms? And he's like, what do you mean? I said, they've released photos of it. I'm teasing him, going like, it's going to be, there's enough there for you to go like, what the hell kind of thing. But, we'll see the trailer. I think the trailer comes out tomorrow on Monday. So
tomorrow it does. That drops for the new Ghostbusters, yeah.
Fingers crossed that it'll be, and it's Paul Rudd. I love Paul Rudd in a lot of things. So, I'm a bit worried they'll go down the Stranger Things route. And it's like, it's already been done. Stranger Things did it.
Well, hell, don't they have Finn Wolfhard, the one who plays in Stranger Things? Isn't he in this new Ghostbusters movie, I think?
So, I'm sure you're right. Like, I don't know, but I'm sure you're right. So, yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. I'm always very cautious to pass judgment on something until I see... I remember when we saw the teasers for the new She-Ra show, I was like, ooh, mysterious sword in the forest, and it's like the sorceress communicating with the door, and it turns out it's Light Hope or whatever, and it's just like all this stuff. It's like, oh, cool. And then you see the show, and it's like, So, I mean, with Revelation, it's going to be hard not to pass judgment, because obviously now we live in a time when the first trailer or teaser for that goes up, even if it's like a bloody promo image, people are going to be like, what the hell? But in other ways, sometimes that works, and I hate to admit it, but like, look what happened with Sonic. That first trailer came out and we were all like, what the actual fuck? And
they listened to fans and changed. I couldn't believe that blew me away.
That's amazing they did that, because that's, in this day and age, my attitude would, even if I was the most ardent Sonic fan, I'd be like, what's the point in complaining? We're not going to be able to. But obviously they did such a bad job that it became like... It
was terrible looking, but the thing is, Sonic, like I said, he's just a creature, so he was away. You could get away with critiquing him without being called a name. But yeah, I remember I was like, that looks terrible. He looks nothing like Sonic. And the world, like you said, exploded because yes, it's not gonna be an Oscar movie, but it's a fun family movie. There's people that still love Sonic from back in the day and still play him now, like how I love Sonic. So they just said you should change this, and they said they listened to fans, and some people were like thinking, I don't think they're like, even Nathan. I remember he gave me shit. Was like, do you really think they're going to listen to fans?
Yeah,
that's not going to happen.
I think they said the same thing to
and they did.
They're not going to change anything. It's Is it Paramount? I think it's like a big studio like that. You think they're going to turn around and be like, right, let's spend a few more million on, as someone said, I remember one of the things when they showed the changes, I was like, holy fuck, they've done it. Someone said the best thing of like, yes, because all those people that complained about the original are now actually going to go and see it, which, and you guaranteed that a lot of those people won't because they just may not have gone
and
to
they better, because you're right. Some people like to use their mouth, but don't like to use their money. And I ain't got tons of money, but I'm going to see it. I'm going to see that damn movie at the theater.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of stuff at the cinema in recent years. I'm like, why have I gone to see that? But I'll happily go and see a Sonic movie. Plus, my mate's big into Sonic anyway, so I probably will have to. But yes, when Revelation, when that first, I think they'll start with the teaser graphic drops, and then then you'll get like a trailer or something, and I think that's where it'll be really hard not to pass judgment. But if they're sensible, you'll get Grayskull looking like Grayskull, Snake Mountain looking like Snake Mountain, or Skeletor sounding or looking like Skeletor. And the one thing, if they go with the secret identity and the transformation, my one bit of advice, as it always is just keep it. And I don't mean simple in terms of look, but you need 3 shots for the transformation. Adam takes out the sword. You need the transformation.
No spinning around, 5,000 camera angles going around the person.
It baffles the mind. Like, the best transformation sequences are so simple, but it's like
less is more sometimes.
Less is more, and like Filmation did. Well, I mean, Filmation did more with less, if you know what I mean. It's like, right, we're going to do this simple sequence of guy taking out a sword, guy standing at a castle, guy lowering the sword, but let's just put all our budget into this and let's make it so spectacular and memorable. Everybody remembers it to this day. If you said to the most casual fan, what is the transformation sequence? They could remember it visually and go, oh, it starts off with that, then it cuts to that, then it cuts to that. The 2002 show, even I can't remember like how many cuts that had, but it was like, here's a shot of Castle Grayskull, here's a shot of Castle Grayskull exploding, now here.
And then they did multiple versions. I'll admit, I like that one where he like swolled up and the emblem went into his chest.
Yeah, I didn't like it. So, and that's not me being like, oh, but it's almost like the directors of these shows go, remember when Megatron turned into Galvatron in Transformers the movie, and we had the camera spin around and it's like, yes, because that was the whole point of that visual. You were changing something, almost like biologically. You were changing the very DNA structure of Megatron to Galvatron, and it was a great visual. That doesn't mean every transformation sequence has to be 100 different camera angles. And in fairness, with that one sequence, it was one animated shot that went up and down the body. But it's almost like it's like, just keep it simple. Just see that guy take out his sword, explosion. Then he's, even the mini comics did it simple. They did like simple, even like the Alcala stuff. When he did a transformation, there was Adam usually with his hands at his side, and the next second he's got the power sword in his hand. It's just like, keep it simple. Even if it's
simple but great, and I'm sure it's
simple but effective. I remember Lee said the best thing. He goes, so the 2002 cartoon I think was still happening, and Family Guy did the Prince Adam appearance.
I remember that.
But I remember like Lee phoned me up that morning. He was like, oh my God, he goes, the latest episode of Family Guy. He literally phoned me up. Like, it was in America, it would have been like 3 a.m. He goes, and he phoned me. He's like, oh my God, the latest episode of Family Guy, they did a He-Man homage. I was like, really? And he goes, and they used John Irwin. I was like, you're kidding.
That was cool as shit.
He goes, you won't believe what they did with the transformation. I was like, what do you mean? He goes, they did it better than the Mike Young show. I was like, how? He said because they looked at the original and they just kept it. They even did the yellow flash exactly.
They did do that. Yeah, because I think it was Adam in a donkey, and he looked at some guy and said, hello, Henry, and they couldn't say by the power of Grayskull, but he said, I have the power, and then boom, it flashed, and he was on Battle Cat, and boom.
It's a great sequence, but that transformation, if you look at the effects, they did such a good job of aping that Filmation style. And that's Seth MacFarlane going, let's just do a flash or let's do 8 different shots. It's let's do what they did in the Filmation show. And even like it's even staged the same. You get the shot of the sword with the power exploding, then it cuts to the wide shot, and obviously he leaps off after that. But it's just like they did a really good job.
They get it. Yeah, they get it. So let's hope that when the new cartoon comes out, they can take hold of some of the things that we said here, bring in those good elements, and hopefully it will be great and it could last for a lot of season. Now, we are going to switch into the Abyss. Now, I don't know, James, if you're going off of a DVD or if you're going to do the link we have, because I don't know if we'll be off then, because the one I'm watching is from the He-Man official channel. I had to get, again, while we were talking, I had to flash through all the damn ads, so that doesn't happen when we're talking.
Actually,
but what are you going to be going by?
I might go. I've got all the episodes on a. I was going to show it, but obviously I'm not on camera. On a little hard drive. Could you give me like 5? Can you fill 5 minutes of time, and I'll get the hard drive ready and everything.
Well, yes. Well, as you're getting the hard drive, are you still going to talk, or do you just want me to talk myself,
If you
or
could
talk
just
with
all the
Nathan?
time, yeah. If you could talk, I've got to go one locate the hard drive and then
Okay.
kind of
Well,
just.
you go locate that, and then I will talk to Nathan
Yep.
about something. And maybe
Yeah,
Nathan, you
yeah,
could
yeah.
pop up here in a
I'm
window if
here
you
with
can
you.
somewhere.
People were in the chat. They're like, are you still around? And I'm like, yeah, I'm still here. I'm just letting those guys do their thing, like how I used to do when you and Tyler would have guests on, or when you and Tyler would do an episode together. I'm like, let those guys do this. I'll just sit here and listen.
Yeah, well, Nathan will be popping towards when we do the Q&A towards the end, because after we do Into the Abyss, then, of course, you guys can ask James anything, me, Nathan, whatever, so we could all be involved later.
Oh.
But also, later, after this, just to let you know, right when we finish this up, we're going to do our next podcast, which I don't know if Nathan put a link, or at least let you guys know, but we're going to do this Being Boozled challenge on our other podcast, Beyond Retro, or The Masked Man and the Drunk. Did you rename it or rename
it's
the
still
channel?
the Beyond Retro channel. The link for that is down below, so you guys go ahead and
Okay.
click on that, and I'll probably do like we do with this. I'll set it up for a certain time, and you guys can just gather up in there, and then we'll start going. But
And you guys can vote on a mask, because hold on, I gotta tell you guys something. The thing is, with wearing this mask, I can shove the beans up my mouth here and I'll be able to chew, and then when I have to spit them out, I could probably spit them out. And if I puke, it would come out through here. But just to let you know, I usually wear this mask when we do the other show. The problem is the jaw can open, but I'm afraid if I puke, the back part here, the puke will get stuck in that crevice and it'll be all in my mouth and face. So that's why you guys can let me know.
Honestly,
with this
it
mask
makes
or
me
this.
nervous at the fact that you're even saying if I puke, because people have seen you
Well, I hope I
eat a
don't.
tarantula and everything on these shows before, and if that was that bad that first time, I what have I gotten myself into?
It's just, and that's what's weird. The thing is, I mean, a tarantula, you think that would freak somebody out more, but these beans, I mean, I tasted them before and I almost got sick the last time, and I told Nathan this time I'm going to try to swallow them and not spit them up, but I'm afraid I'll puke, because you have ones that taste like puke and rotten eggs, spoiled milk, dead fish. This is going to be bad, and it's going to be after this podcast. So you guys let me see. Yeah, you guys can tell me if you want me to leave this mask on or wear the other mask, and we'll see which
What happened to the
DJ
one
tag saying
that
it won't
has
be
your-
that bad.
Your mouth exposed.
That one I got rid of, because I just it was when I was doing something else when I think did an eating challenge. It was curling up the sides, and there was just crap on the side of my mask. I was like, I couldn't deal with it no more.
I made the
So,
mistake of
this one I can at least spit.
telling my parents that was something that we were going to be doing, so they were like, hey, whenever you do that and go live, let us know, and we'll be watching too. So yeah, great.
All right, we're gonna have Nathan's. Oh, the parents will be watching us later. Okay, well, that'd be good to
Emily's
see.
at work
Yeah,
right
so
now, but
that's.
she was just like, yeah, let me know when you guys do that, and I'll even tune in at work. So
Oh, that's. Yeah, I thought she was gonna maybe be there by that.
I'll
by
ask you
this
a
time, and
question
maybe
about
she would have
these.
partaken.
Like, does the taste just stay there for a while? Like, am I gonna burp like 5 hours from now, and it's gonna taste like one of those?
No. I think as long as you wash your mouth out after you're completely done with everything, you'll be okay. But you will smell it immediately. I mean, when you do the fish, you're going to smell it. It'll be right in your breath. It's going to be stuck. Well, in my mask, it's going to be stuck in either one I do. So
because you're breathing into that, and that air is just. It's funny how James was on here for over an hour, like talking and giving his opinions, and everything sounds fantastic. And now you and I are just talking about potentially throwing up and nasty.
And now we're talking about puking and stuff. But we do have questions, at least for Spike, that we're going to hold for when we do get to that part. We will get your questions, Spike, and anybody else's later on. But yeah, there was that.
That people had asked to be brought up, that not pertaining to Return of Faker, but just other stuff in general.
Yeah, I hope you were keeping track, because this is the one time I was not able to keep track of the chat. I was doing this. I was just, because it was a lot of conversing back and forth, so I couldn't catch everything. And plus, my computer seemed like it was on a slight delay. I think it finally caught up better, but after I had to do that hard reboot, it messed up. And I did find, if you guys were looking, they do have the WWE Masters of the Universe, or Masters of the WWE Universe ring with the two figures. They're at the Walmart stores. They were on their website. They had the single-carded figure. Why did I hear myself? Am I hearing myself on Zoom?
I think that might be on James's end.
Can you hear me?
There we go.
Yeah. Yeah, heard me too, but now good. I don't hear myself no more. Thanks, James. Because I was talking like, wait a second, I'm hearing myself. That might be James' side.
I was trying to find, like, I've got 3 hard drives, and they were connected to my other laptop, which is my kind of laptop that's always dying. It's one of those where, as soon as you take out the power cord, the battery just goes, and you're like, oh, shit. So I was trying to find which one had all the. It's quite funny. It's all the episodes that are on the official YouTube channel, but they gave me the raw files because when I worked on the official YouTube channel, they obviously wanted me to have access to all the episodes. So it's kind of groovy in that sense. But
did they do weird like little
commercial
or breaks, like part where it felt because that's what I was gonna say. I don't know what you'll watch compared to mine.
That's the funny thing as well, is that some of the ones on YouTube are different to the ones I have. So I'm going to guarantee with my Into the Abyss, I'm just calling out the file now, I guarantee that at some point there'll be like an annoying forced fade. I'm just kind of skipping through it to where I can't see anything yet.
Well, I got some fades too. Like I said, there'll be part where they do something, they come out and then come back. So hopefully we'll stay somewhat at least similar in the same time frame. But when you do get to the beginning to where we'll do the whole logo, let me know. Nathan has the link, of course. You have it in the description, correct?
The link is down below.
I'm just going to do a test. If I play the audio to the episode now, does it? I don't want it to like come through or kind of affect the thing. So can you hear it? Or?
Yeah, I can hear it.
Yeah, that's really.
Okay, I'll just mute it. I don't need the dialogue.
Yeah, you know it by heart, anyways. You read the whole damn script, the other different versions, anything you can think of.
Yeah, and I had to abandon our little fancy setup for commentaries that we did last week because not like it really mattered too much, but there was a copyright claim from NBC Universal just because there's like a little bit of the video on there. I'm like, all right, right on.
Ready to get our strikes and get knocked right off of YouTube.
No, they don't really do it like that anymore. It's basically how this happened. They're like, we flagged it for copyright. If there's monetization on it, then we're getting all the money. And I'm like, well, good luck getting nothing because this podcast doesn't make jack shit. So congrats.
Yeah, we'd be lucky. Yeah, we would probably have to pay them or pay somebody else. Like, we ain't getting no money off this. Don't worry.
That was like a certain cartoon that me and Dusan created recently where they already had copyright claims on it. And I was like, that's groovy with me. You own He-Man. We're not making any money off this. So they monetized those videos. And then when they decided, the whole cease and desist thing happened, they took those videos down. And I said to them, I was like, when I was speaking to the person from Universal, I was like, you had copyright claims on these videos. Not that you were making loads of money off them, but you were earning something from me. It was like a cent here or a cent there. So taking them down has only affected you and obviously everybody who wanted to watch the cartoon. But that's another story for another time.
Another time. So James, you let us know if you're all set, and then I will let.
I've literally got the Filmation logo on the screen. I'm just waiting for the ding, so I can press whenever you the ding's going to happen. I can just ding away.
Well, I'll be sure to do that countdown here. I'm going to get everybody ready. Hope they're all set, and I'll do the countdown in 3, 2, 1, play. And yeah, I think I'll pop my other earbud in as this is happening, just to hear a little bit, because it won't affect anything, because I have, I thought last time I did this last week when we did commentary, I told Nathan, I was like, man, I thought there was some kind of interference when I did this, but I don't think there was, so I got paranoid.
Just to make sure we're in sync, what's on screen right now? I've got fabulous secret powers were revealed to me the day I held aloft my magic sword and
by the power of Grayskull.
Oh, so we're in sync then, I guess.
Okay, good then. And yeah, I'm sure we'll get out of sync maybe slightly during the episode, but hopefully not. But this is a great episode. And what did you rate this in your book when you rated this?
I had to look it up. I didn't have to look it up. I was like, let me just make sure. But it was 10 out of 10. Just because it's funny, given the conversation we had about Revelation, this is the perfect example of what I want to see in character writing, because Into the Abyss is a story that doesn't rely on villains. The villain is Teela's inability to notice what a cracked rock looks like and her falling into a chasm, as it were,
right.
Or the abyss. So, but what I loved about Into the Abyss, I will wax lyrical about this, is just that it's a perfect episode in that it takes everything that's been established before. So the heroes, the heroes, and that family. Again, if Kevin Smith, I'm really hoping he watched this episode above all others, because this to me is the one that defines that relationship between Adam and Cringer, Adam and Cringer's relationship to He-Man and Battle Cat, and Adam's relationship to Tila, and it's great. And the fact that this episode starts off,
I like that. And, do you think that was the reason, like, it started off because, you got right into the action? Because, obviously, we didn't get no more of this kind of action later in it. But this worked for what it was done.
It's clearly I'm not sure if I ever spoke to Rob Lamb, because I spoke to Rob Lamb, I've been speaking to Rob Lamb for 21 years now, but I've never really talked to him, I don't think, about this scene. But it's clearly there for a reason. I'm sure, I wouldn't be surprised if when the episode was first written, this scene wasn't even in there. And then probably one of the Filmation heads was like, maybe
add some action.
Yeah, add like a Beast Man in there. But it's great because it starts off the episode with another. It's almost like you're coming out of an episode in which Beast Man attacked the Widgets. Well, God knows what that was called, Beast Man versus the Widgets, or a furry problem, or something. And then it's like, and that was the end of the episode. And now we're at Castle Grayskull, doing a summary of the episode that we just missed. It's beautiful in that sense.
Yeah, it did, and it worked great. I mean, at some point you were thinking, like, did I miss something? Because how it started, you're like, especially picture being a kid and maybe thinking, did they start this a couple minutes earlier? What happened? Because it went right into battle. Then you're here at Grayskull, then you're not at Grayskull.
Yeah, if you turned on, you'd have been like, what's happened? What have I just missed?
You'd have been pissed off, yeah.
Because it's a really unique opening. You just I can't recall many other episodes where She-Ra does it with Looky. That's another Rob Lamb episode. I've just made that connection. Robert Lamb wrote Looky Lends a Hand, which opens with Hordak blocking the way to the Whispering Woods for the Rebels. So you've got a whole situation there. But yeah, like I was saying earlier about the Filmation backgrounds, like Robert Lamb wrote this whole episode on the premise of, let's try and showcase the power within the Abyss. But
I like the explanation of that too. Of like they're saying it's the source of Grayskull's power, but they said it's bottomless, but not really bottomless. Like it's just to the center of Eternia. I like how they kind of give a little focus and explanation for those, and that's always a reason to build up to something too.
Oh yeah, of course. It's like it's like something's going to happen, guys. But I love the idea that the whole episode just revolves around this. It is such a uniquely paced episode. There's just so much kind of. It's just a talking episode. I remember, like Robert Lamb said, that when he first went online, he searched for He-Man, found our website, and it was just me and my co-creator Eatock writing, just praising this episode. And he was just like, "Wow, these guys really liked my Filmation He-Man and my episodes." He read Into the Abyss and Not So Blind, so he saw those reviews and thought, "I might get in touch with these guys." And then after that, he kind of. As I was saying about Robert Lamb, it's like without him, I never would have become the He-Man expert because he gave me all that kind of behind-the-scenes knowledge and stuff, which expanded. I remember, like, in one of the scenes in the original script, there's a scene where obviously Tila here is looking for Prince Adam and she stumbles upon Manny Faces and Ram Man rehearsing like a scene for a play. And it's like, stuff like that would have been great, but I'm kind of glad it was removed because it's like you get straight to this fantastic scene where it's, Adam.
I like this, though. You get this from Adam. Like we said, when you're not He-Man, this is what Adam would like to do. And he was, the first time, he was kind of really, dickish to Tila. He was kind of really mean to her.
This is what I love about it. It's like, we always see Prince Adam playing the role of the prince, and here he's actually just tired of playing the role.
Really? And I like it.
She doesn't know any better. That's the beauty of it. Like, Tila's like, I don't understand. You've been lazing here all day. And he's thinking, no, I just saved the Widgets from Beastman. And then but that's the best bit. When he dismisses her, it's so awful. That's like, you dick. And like Cringer even, mine just did a fade. God damn it.
Mine did too. So we're on sync. Good.
Okay. But this confrontation is so beautiful. Like the dialogue here, I mean, I can recite off by heart, but it's this whole thing of just, Adam finally admitting, I'm tired of being He-Man, and then Cringer acknowledging, I'm tired of being a battle cat, but I hate to say, I'm sure glad he's around when I need him. And it's I loved it. Yeah. It's two characters speaking to each other from the heart, and you only get it in this episode because it's the only episode that really allows for it. You can have this scene and it not be like. If suddenly like Skeletor attacked, you'd be like, what was the point of that scene? But this is all just character building, and it's so unbelievably perfect. You get these two.
For a show to where they sometimes say there wasn't really character building, like no, if you look and you see there was character. Exactly. Yeah. It's like no, there was character building. This one was a special moment. It's the one that I always would keep harping on, where I said, about He-Man and Adam. You'd be surprised. You'd think that He-Man would like to rest at times, and then when he's Adam, he can't do that. But, he can do it. But if he's to have his secret known, he would have never had that moment to just relax. He couldn't have it.
Yeah, exactly, and it's immediately followed by this like beautiful scene where father and daughter are talking, and she's trying to make sense of it. He knows the truth, but he's trying to
Mhm.
get her to deal with the problem in a unique way. And it's so good. It's not like her just going, "Oh, Dad, Adam was mean." He's like, "Well, blah blah blah," wink at the camera because he's really He-Man. He tries to get her to solve it in a certain way, like, right, let's try. I've got to try and figure this out, without really admitting to us, the audience, that he knows Adam is He-Man. Of course he does, but he's not playing that kind of almost cynical role of like, my daughter's stupid. She doesn't know these two guys are the same thing. It's really, again, it's from the heart. He's trying to guide his daughter in a way of going, look, what are your strengths, and what do you think you can get out of Adam? And it's this, mixing work with fun, and it's like, okay, and it's it's fantastic. You get obviously this confrontation, the thing where
And I
again,
like that he at least apologizes for how he treated her. But you're right.
it's so perfect. But like, imagine we're what, 7 minutes into the episode, nearly 8 minutes, and it's just characters talking in that Filmation stock system, and yet to me, it's some of the best storytelling to come out of the entire He-Man franchise, because you've got, oh no, Adam was better in the DC mini comics. It's like, what did he do? I remember like in the miniseries, he drank and like brawled
caroused around,
with Russia and stuff like that. That was, don't get me wrong, I like that Adam as well, and that was a fun Adam. But this Adam is just like, he's so much deeper. It's like, oh no, I play the role of Prince Adam, and you've got this relationship with with Taylor, and it's and this whole scene, like, so the background, just quickly, so this is the evergreen forest. So as a kid, I would have said, no, it's not. Where's the green in it? But in all the geography and stuff, the twisting trees is the evergreen forest. It's like,
like you said, nothing like that would look. You don't get an Earth vibe when you look at this. It's like you completely feel like you've escaped into another world.
But they're so kind of alien and twisting, like behind Prince Adam there, that beautiful, like the way it just kind of twists and bends and stuff. It's like, I understand what that is, but it's so alien that I know. You look at the shots of the heads, and it's like, but I know they're an alien world. Therefore, I'm immediately in fantasy. And I always loved those backgrounds, the mountains they had in the distance, like those giant purple mountains. Those look really cool. But the other thing I forgot to mention, like about the Adam, and again, another scene I'm glad they took out was when Teela originally finds Adam. Instead of him being under a tree, she finds him like flirting with two women. And it's him doing that kind of, Prince of Eternity, like, hey, I'm a great swordsman stuff that you saw in, I think it was Pawns of Pain or stuff.
Well, he's, shown in the cartoon at times, being kind of slightly around with the ladies, a ladies' man. But I know what you mean. Both of them are cool, but I kind of like the relaxing thing, because it does show that you need to have a break.
But it leads into that dialogue so much better with him and Cringer of just like, phew. This is this is a comedy bit of the thing where it's just like, oh, now suddenly for the first time in the series we're leaving footprints. But okay,
yeah. And there was a reason, because you're right. It's like they never show stuff like that, but at least they were attention to detail. Because like when Adam would walk, you'd see it. When he's walking back the other way, you'll see it again. So yeah, you always knew there was a reason when they would show anything. Like when you'd watch the cartoon, let's say there was always just that rock that would sit there in a certain position, but when it looked extra colorful, you're like, something's gonna happen with that rock,
Yeah, like if there was a mountain top and the top bit looked like a cell, you're like, well, that's getting destroyed. That's
right.
Oh, this
you get this little thing.
This Pookie was the character design appeared in Orko's Missing Magic first, like as wasn't a Gronk. I think it was just, I don't think it even had a name. It's just like a little blue creature that ran around at the palace, and it was designed by Tom Cito, who was an animator on He-Man and a director and a storyboard artist, and then a director on She-Ra. But he created these characters like the Gronk and Pookie. And the design sheet is really cute because he's just like talking about shapes and how they should move and the things they should say. And but yeah, I think like Pookie is probably the one thing this episode doesn't need. But I understand again.
Well, because I was gonna say this is the character. You kind of beat me too. I was gonna I didn't like Pookie in the whole show. I was like, why is he even here? But he leads to something happening. Like there was a reason Pookie was put into this episode, because you'll know when you see it.
And also, like the whole point is, when Teela has her thoughts to herself, she can talk to Pookie. That's the best thing. Pookie acts as like a sounding board, and it's not just her doing an 80s cliche of going, oh, I wish I could get out of this situation. Right. She can actually talk.
Like Castaway, being stuck Castaway, they had to give him to talk to Wilson. And I thought Adam
Wilson.
Yeah. Yeah, so Pookie's the Wilson of this episode.
Wilson of this episode.
And I thought Adam was like, Dad, I was like, what the hell just happened when he fell there? But it was funny because now we're going to get to the whole reason Pookie was put into this episode. And I was like, boy, something must have been pretty brittle or bad going on in Eternity of this day. It's like everything's falling apart, which
Like I remember, so the reason I remember Rob Lamb, like because the funny thing about this episode, if you were to watch it with a very cynical pair of eyes, you're like, where's the sorceress then? Why does the sorceress not come to her aid? And in the original script, like the sorceress flies out of the castle just as Tila arrives, and Tila sees Zor and goes, "Oh, I wonder where Zor's going to." So there was that scene supposed to happen, which explains why the sorceress isn't there. But this is it's the scream is amazing, the blood curdling scream.
Yeah, I thought she'd like, damn, she's dead. I mean, that was and she fell a long way. So
that's the thing.
That was
it's such a great bit of action because originally, like, and I remember Rob actually saying this. One of the first conversations we ever had. He said originally I wanted Act One to end with her hanging on to the side of the abyss to be like a genuine cliffhanger, and I thought I'm kind of glad they didn't do that because her fall is so much more dramatic. Because at the end of Act One, you're like, how does Tila get out of this? And also, I think Filmation were very much against leaving a character in peril. They didn't want a character to be hanging on for dear life because then you've got an ad break and kids are like, oh my god, Tila's going to die. It's just like, let her drop into the abyss and then we can go from there. But so it was, I like this as well, this bit of the episode where Adam sort of like feels that, oh, Tila's gone back to the palace. He kind of feels that he deserved it because of what happened earlier. And that's a really sweet bit because it's clear he's still kind of guilt-ridden by it. It's like, oh yeah, I acted like a dick, so understandably, she's not going to, she's not going to stick around. It was just like almost like a game she played to be like, yeah, I'm going to leave you abandoned, walking around there in Green Forest. See you later, Prince. So yeah.
Yeah. And plus, we get to get a little more scenery of seeing just this dark chasm. Of course, it didn't go all the way down, but we've always seen some points where they fell into the abyss and they're always stopped by something, which is good. But it kind of gives you a feeling of peril, wondering how will she get out. And eventually, we're going to see her thinking about the tracking devices. Maybe Adam will pick up on that, which she was talking about earlier. So that's kind of their version of a Wi-Fi or cell phones back in the day. So they're ahead of their time. Later, I still don't know what she wrapped her arm with. You let that pass, thinking, I don't know what she got the
my attitude is Tila's always prepared. She's, whenever she opens up her jacket thing she's got there under her bust, she always has like a grappling hook or something. So I was like, of course she's going to have some bandages of some sort.
Sure.
But this is like why, this is where Pookie comes into the episode because it's like she can have a conversation. And it plays off as if she's talking to this creature, which she is. It
was a good idea because it would have looked a little silly of, like you said, her constantly talking to herself and, like inner monologue or thoughts. So having somebody to.
That's the only way you could do it. You're right. The only way you could have done this, if you don't have Pookie there, is just have the old echoey thoughts. So it's just, which we've seen in the series before, but with Pookie, it just adds a bit of more character to it because it's not her inner thoughts. It's her just going like, what are we going to do? How are we going to get out of this situation? I think it's just like masterfully handled. And then you got obviously again just chilling out in his lab. It's just like he's the agony aunt in this episode. He's just like, bring on your problems to me, and I'll kind of try and solve them as best I can.
Yeah, this track in particular always, it was mysterious, it was spooky, it was kind of creepy, it kind of drew you in. And then it was, nighttime when they were showing everything too, and you're thinking, God, how long has it been? And Adam, I think, said like 4 hours or 4 something. 4 hours,
yeah. Duncan, I'm worried. It's what I love is when Man at Arms says around Castle Grayskull, let's go, because you know that he thinks like. If the tracking device is around Castle Grayskull, something's wrong. Because if it's there, why hasn't she returned? It's just that we know why it hasn't returned, but it's that moment in the character's like, shit's gone south, literally, very south.
Yeah, because if she's at Castle Grayskull, normally think, okay, she should have been saved by now. Something good should be going on. So if she's there and there's a problem, then something else is going on.
But one of the few times we see a map of Eternia again, which was Eternia always looked on maps was more vertical than horizontal, I think. I might be wrong, but it's a few times you get to see those maps. It's like, that's pretty cool. But there's the bandage. There you go.
Yeah, she put on the rat trap bandage right there.
Rat trap. Yeah.
Poor girl can't stand up though. Like, she'll say, better sit down. But it's gonna lead to one cool last moment. Mine went to dark, came on, said He-Man. I think yours probably did the same thing, but. It does lead to a really cool moment coming up here that I get chills every time I see it.
The funny thing is, when so there's a piece of dialogue soon where Adam shines the light over and sees the crack, and he's like, "This break is fresh. That means Tila came this way." And it's such a weird line because it sounds so. Here it is. He says like this. breaks through. The reason that sounds, it's like, shouldn't he sound more worried? It's because they took that dialogue for some reason out of an earlier scene where he's tracking Teela and he sees the break and he's like, oh, this break, that's why Teela came this way. But they decided to move it here. So it's like, oh, I'm seeing the break. And I just feel like that's the one part of the episode I don't like, because it's just, he's way too calm about, there's a break.
You'd be panicked, like how Man at Arms had a reaction. He's like, what the hell? Like, she fell. And
again, Robert Lamb going back to, like I said, to what came before, like Teela's quest, the Sorceress Teela connection. I'll have the Sorceress call out, and Teela suddenly feels the presence of her mother. And
it's touching. That was touching.
Oh, it's a beautiful point. But as a kid, this is the funny thing about this episode. I'll say it quickly before what happens. Is I was on holiday and I'd set the video to record, so it was recording the episode, the old timer in the 80s, set the video.
Yeah.
And I literally we pulled into the drive, I rushed into the living room, I turned on the telly. Back in the day, you turn on the telly and it fades from black. Because obviously telly just doesn't come on automatically, it warms up, doesn't it?
Right.
So I turned on the telly, and as the telly warmed up, no word of a lie, I'll never forget this day, I turned on the telly, it warmed up, and there was the shot of Prince Adam in his pose in front of the two moons, and I was just like, what's about to happen? I just remember as a kid being like, oh my God. And
I love this when it happens.
Oh, it's just one of the most, and it's really funny in the storyboards. It was something that in the script, it's just Adam transforms into He-Man, the Abyss reacts. But the storyboards were like, they say it, the storyboards, let's just make this the best. And it is one of those.
And they did. Look at this. The power going down to bring it up. Oh, shit.
It's the bit when it comes up, and it's Teela's reaction. She's witnessing He-Man, like Prince Adam changing to He-Man.
She doesn't even know what the hell's going on,
And it's that kind of upshot of all the parents, like, oh my God. It's like when you realise, people are like, does that happen every time he transforms? It's like, maybe, not necessarily, but it's just one of the best visuals.
That was badass.
Oh, it's just an incredible scene where you're just like, and it's like I say, it's the way it's staged, the way Prince Adam stood in front of the moons, and it just brings out all that kind of drama. And like I say, as a kid, if you turned on the telly warmed up, and I saw that, and I was like, what is this? And then I went the whole episode. But and it's great because you get all these scenes, and it's almost like this is the part of the episode. Not I forget, because I know this episode inside out, but it's almost like the saving of Teela is an afterthought. It's like, she's going to be saved. He-Man's going to save the day. And even like this scene is almost just like, it's part and parcel of a rescue part of the episode. It's almost like the Beastman scene. It's like, we've seen this a million times in the series. So it's not, oh my God, remember that scene when He-Man and Man-at-Arms are in the Abyss and they save Teela? It's just a passing by scene. It's what comes after where, Teela talks about feeling the presence of her mother, and you're like, oh shit, this episode, man, it gets all the feels. And it's like, and I love the bit when He-Man turns to Teela and is like, Adam is very worried about you, Teela, and it's just like, oh. And it's just so although like I always laugh at this bit where she's got Pookie in her arms and then she hugs her dad. I'm like, where's Pookie gone?
At least they gave him back to her, because I was like, what happens? He getting crushed, but then the next scene you see Pookie again. But like you said, that's just the reason.
Oh, there's He-Man's like, Pookie dropped into the abyss. She's like, forget it.
Pookie's dead. At least I'm alive.
But like even this, like there's no acknowledgement of the sorceress. Like Teela doesn't know she's there watching them, and it's so beautiful. The fact that Teela talks about this, and He-Man are like, "You're a mother," and it's because obviously they know the secret and stuff like this, and it's it's an incredible end to an incredible episode. It's just it's amazing for a story that's character driven and quite linear. It flies by because you're just like, Jesus, that was a lot happened in that without actually happening, if you know what I mean.
And it didn't feel slow-paced, even with not action happening. It didn't seem like it would make you lose your attention while you were watching it. You were just drawn in for the whole episode.
The best structured episodes, because it is just so very simple. It's it's literally a very simple plot. Teela falls into the abyss. That is all it is. It's not like, and then the subplot is the characters. It relies on everything that came before it. Teela's quest, every time Adam and Teela have fought, every time Teela has been to her father to be like, it relies on Robert Lamb looking at some background notes and going, oh, okay, so the abyss is where the power of Grayskull comes from. Maybe I should explore that. Then it goes to the storyboard department, and Bob Ford, who storyboards the episode, says, maybe we should have like Prince Adam take the Sword of Power out, and he's in front of the moons, and it's like really dramatic. And then, he storyboards this entire scene where the power of Grayskull goes down and then comes back up. It reacts to Prince Adam's transformation, and it's just like, oh God, you know, that's where I talked about earlier, where the love the people had working on this show, your storyboard artists primarily, Rob Lamb, Bob Ford, were just like, they crafted this episode because it wasn't like they hated what they'd done. They enjoyed working on He-Man, but they just thought there's some things in this series we're not exploring. Like Bob Ford he wrote the Rainbow Warrior because he said Queen Marlena she just sits on a throne, but she's got this entire origin of being an Earth astronaut. I'm going to bring that to, and again, that's just people who love the show they're working on going, let's do something with this. Let's bring this to the forefront. Let's turn this into a story. And it was just, like that.
You know, and before we bring in Nathan and we start doing the Q&A in here, a question I have for you, though, is I know you did that unofficial He-Man book a while back, but has there ever been thoughts of like just doing a book? Like, I didn't know if there could be a collaboration with Dark Horse, anybody else, but it's just a hypothetical question, but possibly showing a book with all the storyboard notes. Is that anything you were ever interested in doing? Is maybe giving storyboards and the notes and putting in one big...
I nearly did it, but I remember like working, and I've still got pages of designs where I did it, where I was going to do an unofficial, because I could have got away with it, like in terms of copyright law, if I was going to do an unofficial Filmation storyboard book. So in other words, it would be lots of pages from He-Man and She-Ra, but then other Filmation shows, which I think I have storyboards for some of those shows. But that was my attitude. It's like if I cover Filmation's Ghostbusters or Black Star, or Brave Star even, if I do storyboards for that, like an entire book of all these different storyboards, then I can get away with including all these different storyboards. But then, as time went on, it's like, I'm not sure if the audience is there for it. And then,
well, I'll tell you what, I mean, at least for me, and at least when you post this stuff, when you're doing it on Facebook, Instagram, when you're posting some of these quick little storyboard pictures, panels, or anything, I mean, they're amazing to see. Like, oh God, that could have been part of the episode. That was something that, maybe they were going to use. I think fans would love to see it. I mean, I don't know if they'll say it in the chat room, but trust me, I think we would all love to see things that did not happen. And plus, even those pieces of the storyboards really interesting. Like, you even get a hold of some stuff. I don't know what the hell that one was, but I swear you had a piece from Fred Carrillo where it was something from, like, thing that they were going to use for Evil Seed, but it wasn't in the cartoon, but it was his style. I don't even know what the hell that was that you shared.
That but because it was weird with Fred Carrillo. Like, I called it layout artwork, and then do some kind of debate on that. It's like he was credited as Fred Carrillo was credited as a layout artist, but I think what he did was certain episodes. One was The Remedy, one was Evil Seed. He did a few others. City Beneath the Sea was another one. I think what they did was call him in. Or because like I say, he was character designer, and I think he did a few other things. But he would sit there, and they'd say, "Here's the script for Evil Seed." He's like, "Okay." And I think what he did was went through the script and visualized certain scenes. So I've got I think even like Emiliano has as well, page after page of just Fred Carrillo illustrations from Evil Seed.
They look beautiful. I mean, shit, the stuff that he did for all the other types of books and things, I mean, those are just all like their own piece that could be framed. That's why it's like, I think fans would love to see those along with the other ones that, yes, there's those quick little, storyboard, pictures and art. But my God, just to see anything from with Fred Carrillo, because, yeah, he's one of my artists that I love seeing, from the past. And damn, I think, yeah, if you were to release a book with anything with storyboards and concept art and stuff like that, I think fans would go nuts. But I know, like, nowadays, like you said, there's more legal stuff. You probably
I was going to say, right now, I'm kind of playing it, very safe after what happened with The Return of Faker. It's like, yeah, it's like people, I'm not even, put it this way, like, I went through a phase of I don't want to get too much into this because I don't want to paint anybody as the bad guy or anything, but I went through a phase of, not a phase, just every once in a while I post videos from He-Man and She-Ra, and like, oh, here's one of my favourite scenes, here's one of this, here's one of that. When I got the Return of Faker cease and desist, Universal went through and took down all of my He-Man and She-Ra videos from Instagram. It was like about 46 different videos, and I was like, wow, they really went after me. And I was like, okay, fair enough. The only frustrating thing is, it's like I see videos on Instagram all the time from He-Man and She-Ra. It's like, okay, well, I guess now I'm an exception to the rule. I'm not allowed to do it. So I'll play, I'm more than, it's like, guys, you own the cartoon. I'm not going to fight you on that.
Right.
But I just felt like, oh, that was a bit unfair. Like, all I was doing was talking about, like, I love this, I love that. I'm not making any money off that. It wasn't like I was monetizing Instagram videos. I can't even do that. It was just, here's a scene from Into the Abyss. I think I posted at one point the transformation. They took that down. They took
wow. Anything, huh? Wow, that's a shame.
Because I didn't mind, I minded, but I was like, oh, I understand why you took down the Return of Faker videos, because you didn't want that being a thing. But to take down, like, scenes from the intro and stuff. It's like, really, that struck
that
me as,
anybody shares. Yeah,
yeah,
it's
that struck me as a
unfortunate.
bit like a bit of a real personal attack. So after that, I was like, okay, I won't post anything to do with
Yeah,
Turner Faker
just
or
not.
any cartoon clips, which is a shame because I used to love posting clips and saying like, oh my god, check out the problem with power, check out Into the Abyss, and it's like, right, all those videos are now gone. I've got like a, I'm partial OCD. It's like the fact that those videos like no longer exist now. It's just like, oh man, it really frustrates me because they were there and they were part of my history of Instagram, and now
Well,
it's
that's
just,
what I mean. You're just sharing the love. Like you said, you weren't doing that to like, make
geez.
any money. It's like you're just sharing out of love. Like I would hate the thought of if they got pissed at me for anything, because that's all I've posted on Facebook for the past 10 years is He-Man stuff and Friday the 13th. So if that goes,
Yeah,
then damn, I'm
They're
off
coming
Facebook.
for
It's
you
like
next,
goodbye.
Joe.
yeah, I
I
think.
wouldn't be surprised.
No, I think when it comes to like photos, so like images of Return of Faker, they allowed those to stay up. Like any still images from the
Oh,
Return
okay.
of Faker. So any still images is fine. I think it's when it just comes to moving material, like any videos, that's where they have an issue. And it's like, okay, that's fine. For Return of Faker, that's fine. But I thought going after any videos I've ever posted of He-Man was just like, there was one they missed, and I was like, oh dear. But I was just like, I was disappointed. But like again, I'm not going to fight NBC Universal
No,
because they've
no,
got
no.
they got their
It's
job to do.
unfortunate. I mean, fans were so excited about that more than anything I've ever seen when it came to He-Man. It's unfortunate, but
I mean,
well, I was gonna.
the
Oh, go ahead.
finished thing, what we did, like the Return of Faker, is yeah, it's one of the I'd say next to the animated adventures book, the Dark Horse book, it's probably one of the best things I ever did. I know Doosan, like me, is equally bummed out. It's like, oh man, and like Andrew Kramer, Yucca, and Keith Seymour were all just
Are you
like,
gonna spoil something? I've never seen it, but it's still. Are you gonna spoil something? Because I'm gonna have to take on my earplug.
oh no spoilers, don't worry,
Okay.
no. I
Okay.
was just saying, like we were all really gutted by it. It's just like 32 minutes in the can, as it were, like all done. It's just like, oh, now we're never. But I mean, like the only thing I will say is, if anybody's like, we're never going to get to see it, it's like you will get to see it at some point. It's just it may be a year or two off, which sucks. But in that year or two, I've already said to Doosan, I'm sure he's going to be like, no, but I've already said to Doosan, let's add like maybe a scene in there just for fun, like because now we've got time. Like there was a few mistakes we made in it. Like there was an error where Faker's holding Orko. That's not a spoiler, but his hand is below Orko, so he's not actually holding him. It's just like it was like a model sheet pose, but it's like his hand is clearly under Orko, so he's not holding him. So it's like a few little tweaks here and there. Plus, I thought I really want to put a scene in, like a certain scene, and a few little tweaks here and there, just to.
Well, the thought of if we could still, like you said, after a year or two, actually see this, that'd be amazing.
The way I look at it is, look, it took us. I worked out recently. I was asked recently how long it took, and I worked out. We came up with the idea. We first came up with the idea of the Return of Faker in, I think it was late 2015. Was when no, was it late 2015, and we were. Jeez, I think it was, and we were come up with all these ideas and then posted it on the official. We did the teaser, and originally it was just going to be like a little fight scene. And then it just expanded and grew. And then when the official He-Man YouTube channel said you can't do this, it was like, okay, we'll just do it unofficially then. Like make no money off it. And then from I think it was like 2016, 17, 18. Yeah, I spent 3 years working really hard on it, and then. Yeah, finished it, and it was just like, oh man, 50 days before we're due to show it, we're like told if you show it.
What are the odds? What are the odds?
It's this thing, like like I said, my friend who works for Disney told me something about why that happened, why the Return of Faker, and it is as simple as you don't own the rights to it, and it's like, yeah, I know, neither do those.
I guess the thing that got me and everybody else in a little miffed was just the thought of, okay, like you said, yes, you don't own the rights to it. You always said it was it's a fan project. It wasn't official. You weren't making money. And like, okay, for example, I always say Friday the 13th. Friday the 13th, that's been going through some crazy legal limbo for years. I mean, there's some things going on now. It's just insane. But there's been fans that have been making Friday the 13th fan films where, again, no money's being made. Tons of them, and they pop up on YouTube all the time. It's like, why is there sometimes exceptions to the rule in different cases? Like, I didn't see it. I was like, they should understand you are making no money from this.
The only
then what's
arrogant
the
thing I'm
issue?
going to say, this is incredibly arrogant, is, and a few other people said this as well as someone in quite a high position in
They might think you did a better job than
in a
whoever
certain
leaked out
toy
Revelation.
company. Basically said, not you did a better job, it's you did too good a job on it. Is
Yeah.
that people saw the clips, they saw the previews, there was a lot of hype around it.
Mm.
And I think
There was.
that's where classic media, Universal had the issue in that they don't, and I understood this to a degree, is that we don't want any confusion. We don't want people to think this is
Right.
official. It's like, I get it, I get that. But, like I say, if I was making any money off it, then of course, but we were literally, the plan was, and I even told Universal this, because I exchanged many emails with Universal, and then eventually I just stopped. But I'd said to them, just let me show it at PowerCon, just the ones, which they wouldn't allow. And I was like, and just let me, I'll just upload it to YouTube for free. I even offered it to them. I said, look, I'll give it to you. You can do whatever you want with it. Release it on DVD, make money off it. I said, we literally made this out of pure love. It's like our love letter to Filmation. So, I can't talk about it at length, but all I can say is that plans are in the work that at some point, hopefully, we'll all get to see it in some way or another. So,
that will be a great gift.
And all I can say is, by the time people get to see it, it will be even better than it is now. And we think, I think it's like the best it can be. But I think there's a few little tweaks we can make, and and it's like,
spoiler alert, guys! He was putting Majolak. He did a little altering to Majolak. He put a scarf. He put a hood. He's in the background, like sweeping something or doing something makes no sense. Or as Nathan would say, you're going to see a garbage can in the background, and you're going to see a Majolak.
Yeah, wearing a scarf. Where'd that come from? I don't know.
Yeah, where does that come from? Yeah,
exactly. But I was going to say, any questions you guys have for James or me or Nathan, but heck, if you want to hit James while you can, start popping them in now. And I just noticed something while watching this video. Nathan wanted me to send a blank template so he could put you like in the part of the Masters of the Universe vintage card back logo like he does for me. And of course, the center of this photo that I'm looking at right now on YouTube, Nathan's in the Power of Grayskull. He's right in the middle of the jawbridge. But I didn't know exactly everything you wanted, Nathan, because I would have gave James a name and I would have gave him like a little tag line.
You're good. Because when I hit you up with that was what, about 5 o'clock. I'm like, yeah, we don't really have time. Just send me a blank one.
Oh, okay.
Because usually when I ask Joe to do something like that, he gets back to me about like 5 days later, and I'm like, well, I don't need it anymore. Thanks.
I've been getting a little bit better. on it. I apologize. But now we're going to hit some of these questions. Let's see. Zentron said, in homage to Joe's t-shirt tonight, James, who is your favorite Dungeons & Dragons cartoon character?
I was going to say that. Is that the shirt you're wearing? That's the one from the UK annual, I think, because that's Tiamat. Has it got all the characters at the bottom?
You know what annoys me about this shirt? I love it because first, let me just say, it's one of the first times I've seen some like Dungeons & Dragons merchandise at a store, but they left out Sheila, and I always say, okay, well, they left her out, but you know what? She turns invisible, so I guess she could be there. But then you have Venger not writing Nightmare, he's writing Tiamat. I'm like, what the hell is Venger writing Tiamat for? It's like, things just had me...
Like that shirt, like I say, it was, I think it was the UK, it was a cover of like a UK annual.
I didn't know. I bought this at, believe it or not, GameStop. It was there, and it was on clearance for $7.99, and a lot of inconsistencies on the shirt, still cool, but I just didn't get it. But go ahead and mention that.
My favourite character by far is Eric the Cavalier. I loved, like, Dungeons & Dragons is one of my favourite cartoons of all time. We did in the UK when they released them on DVD back in 2003. We did commentaries for the episodes. It was so much fun. It was like we sat in this studio and we recorded 10 commentaries. There were 4 of us in the room. It was like the producer, me, my friend Dave, and a girl. I was a big fan of Dungeons & Dragons. And we sat there and we recorded, like, it was so funny how the first episode you're kind of like, hi, welcome to the commentary. By the second, you're kind of getting into it by the foot, like into it as in you building up more and more confidence doing the commentaries. By the end, we were just like, just laughing our heads off, going, "Oh, this is brilliant."
I could imagine.
And but I loved Dungeons & Dragons is a show I haven't watched it in years, almost purposely, because it's like I've got such good memories of it. And it's not like,
just want to let you know, the whole time you're talking, I'm seeing Nathan smiling. No, Nathan, I'm not going to do it, because he knows, he's like, Joe's going to start the rant about the final episode. I'm not going to do it, Nathan.
You're already
so
kind
every
of
time you were talking,
halfway there.
I'm not gonna do it. So he's enjoying what you're saying, but he has this shit-eating grin because he's waiting for me to lose it because I've done it a couple times about
A
Dungeons and
couple.
Dragons.
Yeah, all right, sure.
I'm not gonna do it. But James, well, thank you for that. You said Eric, and yeah, a great character. As yeah, they all are fantastic. Carlos has a question, and Carlos, by the way, is the one that when he got that 2-pack with Adam and He-Man for Origins, he's posting all these cool pictures and swapping out heads, then doing things with wrestlers. Now he's got the WWE Origins, and he's doing that too. So Carlos does amazing pictures, and he has a question. He says, "What is James' take on the Origins line and the WWE Masters toy lines?" And he says, "Yeah, thanks in advance." So, what are your thoughts on both?
I'm a big fan of WWE anyway. I've been watching it since 1998, on and off. I'd say like I went through a period during the height of the John Cena years of just being like, I don't want to see John Cena versus Randy Orton for like the 500th time. So I was a big fan of, you know, when the Attitude Era blew up. I kind of got into that. You know, I was a big fan of wrestling when I first got cable in about '93. So I was watching matches with like the 1-2-3 Kid and Razor Ramon and Diesel.
But then you also got stuck
that?
watching like Mantar matches too, huh?
Yeah, Doink the Clown, Adam Bomb, stuff like that. I mean, like it was when, you know, Vince McMahon was doing all his kind of every character had to have like
Duke the Dumpster Josie, and
Duke the Dumpster Josie came out to that beep, the back of the, you know, the reverse, you know.
Now it's time to take out the trash. Oh, so many.
Trash. And TL Hopper was the sewage guy, and it was all that shit. Like, and then, you know, it transitioned. I remember after about 2 or 3 years, that I was like, oh, I'm not watching this crap, and then I came back into it when the Attitude Era. It was really, it's amazing how your mind remembers things just as you're talking about them. The He-Man mailing list back in, 96, 97. I think it was about 97. Someone posted an image of, it was He-Man's head on Triple H's body, who I looked at and I was like, oh, that's the wrestler Hunter Hearst Helms, as I remembered him. And I remember, I also remember this image to this day. He's doing the crotch chop, you know, the DX suck it crotch chop. And I'm looking at this image, and the first thing I noticed is like, oh, the ring ropes are all red. I was like, I remember WWF as like red, white, and blue ring ropes. So I kind of sought out. I was like, let me watch this. You know, see it. I haven't seen wrestling in like 4 or 5 years at this point. So I turn it on, and it was like the Attitude Era was happening, like DX. And I was like, oh my god, it had gone from being, you know, a kid's product to being a TV-14, which is something they intentionally did, and it was just fascinating to watch. And so I watched it for a good few years after that. It was Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, all that stuff. When you know WWF acquired WCW, I was into that, and then kind of a few years after that, I kind of went away from it. Like when Stone Cold left, I was like, yeah, I'm kind of, you know, he was like such a great character to watch. Kind of went out of it, and then it's like over the last, I'd say 10 years, I've kind of more or less got back into watching it and stuff. And also, there's so many awesome things. Like there's a WWE referee, John Cone, who he and I are mates, friends, I should say. Mates is obviously weird; it doesn't carry well into the American colloquialism. John Cone, who's a WWE ref, many years ago, I was just on Twitter and he tweeted me. And he's like, I'm a big fan of your Serial Geek magazine. I was like, okay. And he posted a photo. I was like, oh my God, he's the referee from WWE. And to this day, he comes to every PowerCon, and he's just one of the loveliest guys. And I nearly said something that I could have got in trouble for, but let's just say he supported so much the return of Faker. And at PowerCon, he was saying just the best things, and he bought Serial Geeks and stuff. And he's just such a lovely guy. And it's like, oh my God! And then the next time I saw it, you know, a few weeks later, I see him and he's, you know, doing a refereeing a match between, you know, I don't know, Seth Rollins and The Fiend or something. It's like, wow. So when they were teasing and announcing, let's say the crossover with Master Universe, it was never. I always thought it was going to happen many years ago when I think it was on a WWF website. They had who are your favorite Master Universe characters, and it was like Kofi Kingston, John Cena saying, oh, I loved this character. Sheamus going, oh, I see myself as this guy. It was that kind of thing. So I'm surprised it didn't come sooner, but obviously Mattel have had the WWF license for many years. So I think the thing I like about it, like I'm not a big action figure collector, but I like you say, this Carlos chap it gives these customizers, like yourself, Joe, it gives you more ability to go, shit, we can mix even more stuff up. And also it's fucking wrestlers. You can put John Cena's head on and paint him blue and put him on, I don't know, Skeletors or something, you know what I mean? You can mix him up and stuff. And
It does. I mean, and plus it's getting people ready for Origins next year. But I mean, I just got the ring with the 2 figures, which I'll show next week. But yeah, great looking body designs, and it's the only time I think the universe. Just real quick, I think it's the only time because I always hate hearing the WWE universe. I hate that. But this works for this because it's a masters of the WWE universe. But otherwise, I always hated it.
That is the one time it has worked. So obviously, when they started introducing that was about 10 years ago, and they would be like, "Look at the WWE universe," and whenever a person goes out and says that, it's like you've just made this promo sound so incredibly scripted. If it didn't already,
I hate it.
I mean, I feel like in recent years they've lessened on the WWE universe term, but it's still there, it's still present because obviously they've branded it. There. I wouldn't be surprised. I guarantee if you looked up copyright, I bet they've copyrighted WWE universe with like a trademark. But the Origins line, yeah. So when they did was it the San Diego Comic Con, the 2-pack?
Yeah.
They showed the Adam and He-Man. I was like, that's awesome. I was really into it. I was just like, that's really good. I love it. I love you see in blue vest Adam. You've got He-Man. You've got that little mini comic kind of thing, which I still haven't read all of because I haven't got it. But it was like, I can see what they've gone for, and they're kind of going down that Alfredo Alcala DC Comics kind of influence route. I was like, this could be really good. Like maybe we'll get the Master Power Demons. Maybe we'll get Skeletor looking like this, or Trapjaw looking like this, or Fisto looking like he did in the Alcala minicomic with the slightly long hair, and all cool stuff. And then the rest of the figures were revealed, and it was like, what? To me, that's no disrespect. Like, I love all those promotions, all the Mattel stuff, but it was just like, I feel that it's, and this is just me talking. I don't want to talk out of turn, but I just feel it's kind of it. To me, it feels like really unfocused. Like so they did
because like especially seeing characters like Scareglow popping up, and you figured, like you said, maybe they had something they're going to go with different, like you said, in a direction. Like I thought, hey, maybe they were going to start off doing a lot of the earlier stuff or more Alcala or mini comic, but now you can see they're just pulling characters from all sorts of different times when they were released, like no specific thing. No, I didn't know what quite the focus was going to be either. To be honest,
I think the one that did it for me was when I saw Man at Arms, and I was like, that just looks like a taller version of the original figure. Like there was no real thing there to make me go, oh my god, I need this figure. It's like, well, Classics already did it. And that's the problem, I think, is we've already got one of the best toy lines ever with Classics. I think
the thing is, it's kind of given in a way maybe a little best of both worlds, because you're getting the vintage style look and almost size, but you're getting a little more articulation like you did with Classics. I don't know if as much, obviously, as Classics.
In this day and age, when you can do that much detailing on figures, it just surprises me that they're going for quite basic detailing.
Yeah, I mean, there's almost maybe a nostalgia factor. They might be trying to poke right into the hearts of the fans back in the 80s, and the price point is a little more respectable with what they're doing. They can give us a $14.99 figure, but doing more to it or extra detailing would jack the prices probably right back up. But you're right, it seems
it's one of those things where I'm just not really into, I guess, the line. It's like I've seen the figures, and it's the only ones I want, I guess, or would be interesting in owning is the 2-pack.
Maybe you've seen different ones. Yeah, maybe if you got newer characters too. If we got other characters from the mini comics that were never made into figures, or from the Filmation cartoon, or any other of the types of media for Masters, that could suck people in too. Like me, I'm just gonna want them because I think they look great. I have to get these suckers. But I can understand people feeling like, I already got those in vintage. I got them in 2000X. I got them in Classics. I don't need to see He-Man all them again. There's probably people that feel like that. But I think maybe if you do give some of the other characters, it'll make them all blend and mesh together a lot better. Like I said, I finally got Shadow Weaver from that figure, the vintage style one that Super 7 put out. I finally got her, and I put her with my vintage collection. And beyond the Crazy 3 Terror figures, or Curse of 3 Terror figures, that's the only newer figure that I put in my vintage collection because she kind of fit. So
yeah, absolutely. No, it was. I loved working on those Super 7. It's such a shame they kind of stopped for the moment. It was because I worked on those with Emiliano, the Power and the Honor Foundation and stuff, and it was
you did some of those mini comic insert fronts.
So I was for a lot of the late ones, Emiliano was really great. He said, "Do you want to kind of basically sketch the layouts for the characters?" So if you look at the Shadow Weaver art card, the back there's two great things about that. One, I did the basic layout of it, where She-Ra I did her reaching for a sword and Shadow Weaver's shadow coils, like trapping her, and Hordak stood on his throne, like pointing. So then Emiliano sent that to, and then I said, look, there was one guy I've known for years who worked on Serial Geek. He did a few covers for Serial Geek called Adam Moore. And he's like a really super talented artist. And he said to me many years ago, he goes, I'd love the opportunity to work on something official. So when Emiliano was like, Errol McCarthy can only do so many. And I said, look, can I hit up Adam Moore? I was like, you know his work. He's like, yeah. I said, I'd really love to get him a gig on Masters, like to be able to say, look what I did. So I basically did the layout, and Adam Moore illustrated that card back of Shadow Weaver, the Shadow Weaver card back. And I was like, that to me was just, that was an honor for me.
You guys all did a great collaboration, all of you guys.
It was a really nice piece. When I saw it, I was just like, oh, God, he's such a good artist. He did The Secret's Out 2-part for the Serial Geek 13 and 14. And again, that was just magical to work on. But yeah, it's such a shame that kind of line, and a lot of the Super 7 stuff is just kind of not ended, but just kind of entered into limbo because of the Origins line. So it's like, we'll see what happens. I think
we'll see what the future holds, definitely. And I know we don't, like I said, we got limited time with you because I know you'll eventually have to be hitting the hay here because it's really late for you, but I'll try to get in a couple more. Adam Gabbert says, what are your thoughts on the Golden Book videos of Masters of the Universe and Princess of Power?
We never got them in the UK, so I didn't see them until probably the mid to late 90s when the internet first happened, and someone was like, have you ever seen these Golden Book videos? And I was like, oh, cool. It's quite funny. I'm not going to say like, the animation bugged me, because I'm a massive fan of the 1960s Marvel superheroes cartoons. So Thor, Captain America, Submariner, Hulk, and Iron Man. Those cartoons, the 1966 Marvel superheroes, is like some of my favorite cartoons of all time. And they just took comic strip panels of Jack Kirby, Don Heck, various other artists, I think a couple of Steve Ditko's when he did the Hulk, and just animated them. So very limited animation. Obviously, that's what the Golden Book videos did. But for me, the Golden Book videos just, we had Filmation, man. It was just, maybe I saw them too late. Maybe if I'd seen them as a kid, I'd be more fond of them.
It's always a different feeling. Because,
I owned them at one point on VHS. I don't own them anymore. That's how much I care for them. And that's no
like when I heard
judgment.
Yeah, because like the record books, like I heard a lot of the record books and heard their voices and was fine with it because I heard that before the cartoon came. And then the cartoon came, I was fine with it. But then like I remember Tyler, he when he would listen to some of those, like record storybooks and stuff in different voices, like, oh God, to him, that's not He-Man. That doesn't sound like He-Man. So I can understand hearing things in a different order, how it is. So now this next question is one that has already been answered, but I'll still say it. I'm probably going to butcher the heck out of the name, but was Gadalex said, James, what are the main things you are hoping to see in Revelations? And she said, it's Alexandria from PowerCon. Well, he did that.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Yeah, he got that earlier in the show. So if you just kind of tuned in later, if you go back, you're going to hear all the thoughts he had on Revelations. Because if he hit that again, we'd be here for another hour and a half. But he did do that earlier. But he said thank you for that. And yes, DJ Tags, very patient with me. Yeah, some things that I was doing for customs, and he's been a patient man. Let me see. Zentron said, by the way, James, the cells haven't arrived before the weekend, so hopefully they'll arrive tomorrow. So there might be some cells that Zentron probably ordered from you, I'm assuming. But I don't know.
Batch, I guess, yeah.
Okay. Grimbot, hey, he's got a question.
Who's he? We don't
I don't know. Basic. Question for James. How would you react if you lost a set of keys at a convention?
Oh, he's such a dick.
What a dick! Yeah, we'll go to the next question. I got so lost. God damn you, Grimbot! Why would you do that? I don't even know what the hell happened because he messed me up.
Wow.
I don't know what to do, Nathan. I'm trying to wait. Descendants of Grayskull said. Oh, Jesus. First, Femon said James Eatock is the heroic keeper of secrets of Shimer, so that's a good tagline. Descendants of Grayskull, do you think He-Man and She-Ra should be separate on cartoons, or do you prefer the separate license?
Oh, I think the separate license, I've always thought it's ludicrous. Like, it makes no sense. I think, without sounding like a massive dick, right now I'm thankful they're a separate license, because I think they can make a He-Man cartoon and not think, okay, how can we... I mean, let's say... I don't think you can do it. I was going to say, what would happen these days is I recently saw it with I was watching an episode of Teen. Oh, I saw they did like something called Teen Titans Go Meets the Teen Titans, and it was like this fun thing where they go through all the different versions of Teen Titans. So it's like the really cutesy, comical ones now meeting the ones from the early noughties. And I thought, as I was saying this, like, oh, maybe She-Ra could cross over into the new He-Man cartoon. That really wouldn't work because it's not a case of a different mixing of. You've got two totally different separate brands trying to.
Yeah.
It wouldn't work. It's like it would work if He-Man suddenly turned up in the She-Ra show, as in their version of He-Man, and then came into the new He-Man universe in some weird multiverse thing, because that seems to be all the right.
Because they're just in two different types of age brackets, looks, design. It wouldn't make sense. You couldn't have like, let's say, 20-year-old He-Man and 12-year-old She-Ra. It wouldn't make sense.
It would conflict. It wouldn't make any sense to cross those.
Sure.
Like, don't get me wrong. Like, if Kevin Smith suddenly, episode 26 or something, they announce, guess what, we're getting She-Ra, and you're like, oh god, and then it turns out to be She-Ra, and you're like, oh my god, this is.
If we had a heroic warrior She-Ra, the one that comes to save day, that you feel safe, like she would kick ass to protect you. That's I'd like to see that. But I see what you mean. But there is one more question for you before we wrap it up, because like I said, I know your time is limited. But Fedmon had a final question. Oh, that's fine. Fedmon said, what is the status of the last 2 issues of Serial Geek?
Oh, Jesus. My eternal bane. They're pretty much done. It's just I just need to get them published. But unfortunately, it's like... it's money. Unfortunately, I never got enough orders to do. I did pre-orders, God, many years ago now. An absurd amount of years ago.
Be sure to do that right here. Like, just as you finish, pimp all of your websites, anything you have for sale, and places people can go to click.
Like with regards to Serial Geek, it's like something I really want to finish, because it is something that hangs over my head like constantly. It's like, wow, these people put a lot of faith and trust in me and patience, and nearly 6 years later, I still haven't delivered these last 2 issues, and there are so many things that factor in, like I say, didn't get enough pre-orders, so excuse me. So financially,
I mean, could people still pre-order if they wanted? If, like, let's say hypothetically, you got more pre-orders now, could that help you at all?
Pre-orders, it's one of those things where as soon as I get it printed, I will literally be paying for people to get the magazine, if that makes sense, because postage costs have gone up since I took pre-orders, because postage costs over here just go up all the time. It's going to be a ludicrous outing, so I need to be in a position financially where I've got more money than I should. That which sounds crazy, because I basically got no money at the moment. I did all those eBay sales, and that went off to paying debts that I'd incurred from America. So hopefully in the next few months I'll get money again, and at some point I'll just reinvest in Serial Geek for those 2 issues. But I have a few people recently, and I've kind of looked into it, about making Serial Geek. The only problem about this is I was thinking about making Serial Geek like a digital publication and releasing all the first 14 issues and then 15 and 16 digitally, so that people can get them on like websites like Comixology and stuff like that. But I know for a fact that I'm not sure that'd be too beneficial, because you can go on a few websites, one that Dusan and I use, where you can already read Masters of the Multiverse. So there,
I know what you mean.
A comic comes out and it's already illegally published.
Spread for everybody to get for free, then.
Yeah. So my attitude is like, Serial Geek is something I cannot afford to give away for free. If I make it digital, people would just be like, oh, well, you can download it here, and that's great. But and not to quote Egon Spengler, but like, print is dead, and I don't quite believe that. But less people are inclined to buy Serial Geek than ever before. But in answer to the question, I really hope I can get them printed. I say this literally every year. I've said this, like, I want to get them done by the end of the year. It's just, I really need to get them done. I did a thing at the start of this year. If you go back on Instagram, like the first post of 2019 is, here's my objectives for this year. And one was visit New York. I did that, tick. One was complete the Return of Faker. Did that, tick. Although tick, asterisk, not published. One was complete issues 15 and 16 of Serial Geek, big cross. And the other one was get those, you've got one of them as well, get those Filmation master tapes transferred digitally. And I tried to do that in London. Now, London, about 10 years ago, had so many dub places where you could go and be like, I've got this quarter-inch master from 1983. What can you do with it? And they'll be like, oh, no problem, we'll convert. I went to about 8 or 9 different places going, I've got these master tapes. They're like, oh, let's have a look. And they'd open and be like, yeah, we can't do anything with that. I'm like, you're kidding. You're a dub house. And quite a few of the places I went to go to just weren't there anymore. It's just like, what do I do with these damn masters? And it's one's Skeletor's Revenge, one's The Greatest Adventure of All, one's Teela's Triumph, the problem with Power, and I think the Arena. It's like I've got some classic episodes. You've got, I think, The Greatest Show on Eternia. So we've got those episodes on those master tapes. It's just like I'd love to just convert them and be able to see them. But again, something I failed at this year was getting done. So it's just it goes on to next year's target of must do that. And I love Serial Geek, but the San Diego Comic Con really destroyed everything about it for me. But yeah, so I apologize as always for not doing it, but at some point it will be done.
All right. And anytime, remember, in the future you have things you need to promote or something, we can always do that and help you out here on Fans of Power, and I can always spread it throughout Facebook and anywhere else. But before we wrap it up, like I said, I don't know if Nathan, you got anything in closing you want to say to James before we wrap this sucker up?
It's always a pleasure to have him on, and it was a relief for me to not have to be on here as much for the entire thing. To have someone, it's like, yeah, finally someone with knowledge that can talk to Joe. Because I feel so bad for our fan base that checks it out every week. Because I'm just sitting here like, oh, yeah.
No, you do it.
The other thing that I did want to touch on, because I don't want to get another message tomorrow morning like Joe and I did last week from Mr. Val Staples himself. Make sure that we mention that PowerCon 2020 was announced. That's going to take place on August 8th and 9th. And it's going to also be at the Hilton Anaheim, which is where it was last year. So.
Yeah, well,
thank you for sharing that. I would have forgot because. Go ahead.
It's crazy this year, like PowerCon, how big it was. Like the venue was ludicrous. It was so big, and it was amazing. It's like I always tell people, it's almost like Vegas. It's like you have to do it once at least. And I mean, obviously, I've done every PowerCon because I go as a guest. But even if I didn't, I'd still go because it's just like the experience of, I always say, I think I've said to you before, Joe, it's like you could literally go and nobody knows what you look like. You could walk around and then take photos. I think that'd be amazing. Like, and then post them. People are like, wait a minute, you were at PowerCon. It's like, yeah, but you didn't know. Holy shit.
Could you imagine that shit? Joe was there all along. It's like, you guys would have never known. That would be fun. You never know. Maybe someday
we should do it where Joe walks around without a mask, but then I wear his mask and don't say anything.
That'd fuck people up. That'd be great. So you never know. Maybe the future's something nuts. But James, it was an absolute blast, man, and everybody that joined us this week. Yeah, and I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I know you enjoyed it, James. And James, if you stick around right after the show, we're doing our other episode of Masked Man and the Drunk, and we're gonna eat these nasty beans. So I might puke, and I think I'm gonna have to leave this mask on because there's no way I can. I showed James. This is what I had. I had this alternate mask I wear on the other show, and the mouth does open when I talk, but I'm afraid if I puke, the puke is going to get collected in here. So I can't put this mask on. I need to spit that out. I can't chew it because I'm afraid I'll throw it.
You should just go ahead and go to bed, man. Save yourself the trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might have nightmares if this is the last thing you see is Joe vomiting live on fucking YouTube. But again, thank you for joining us, James. It was a pleasure having you. Hope to have you on again very soon. And for anybody that's new to this channel, make sure you like, subscribe, share, ring that bell so you can always get notified when we go live. And until next time, have a powerful
I don't
day.
have wrestling trivia this week. Let's just let's get to these nasty beans and get it over with.